Chapter 1511. Huangban Sayaka and Jijua Shelley were happily catching up with each other. They didn't even care about Dustless's existence. The two girls were talking and laughing, looking very harmonious. However, Dustless felt that someone was spying on him from time to time. There were only 3 people in the big room. Without a doubt, the one who was spying on him was either Jijua Shelley or Huangban Sayaka. How strange. After drinking a few cups of hot tea, Wu Chen's relaxed brows furrowed again. That Huangban Sayaka? Is she spying on me? Dustless thought it was Jijua Shelley who was spying on him, but he didn't expect it to be Huangban Sayaka. Although she concealed it well, Wu Chen, who was sensitive by nature, had experienced several worlds. He could feel the penetrating meaning in her vigilant eyes. In the future. After a while, Huangban Sayaka suddenly raised her voice and said loudly, "I will live here." What? Wu Chen and Jijua Shelley didn't know how to react to this sudden vow. They stared at Huangban Sha, who was beaming with joy, with their mouths agape. Don't tell me this guy is. After being stunned for a while, Dustless, who was the first to recover, looked a bit gloomy. Deep in his eyes, a burning flame of anger flashed across. She is probably spying on me. Damn the Lion King organization. Not only are they meddling in other people's business, but they are also spying on me. Is my existence a threat to the peace of the human race? Wu Chen guessed in his heart, and felt a burst of anger. No wonder it was that Ye Smoky who spilled the beans. Thinking back to the battle with Ostak, when Agrora showed up, and when Akatsuki bullied Koju, Ye Smoky seemed to have been observing the battle. As for Jijua Shelley, Dustless looked at Shelley. He didn't think that she would betray him. And there was no need for her to betray the Lion King organization, because they were roommates. Humph. You dare to mess with me? Then I will take my revenge. Dustless sneered. Although he didn't know where the Lion King organization was, he knew a lot about Xian Gaiyong, one of the 3 saints. But, as everyone knew, the Lion King organization specialized in sending their wives for 20 years, and the Lion King organization specialized in marrying their daughters for 20 years. They could flirt, live together, warm the bed, and even have sex without anyone knowing. On the surface it was a supervision, but in reality, it was a professional job of sending girls. What a great, gentlemanly organization. However, when it came to Dustless, he couldn't bring himself to be happy. Anyway, let's go find that ancient idler first. I remember that she's a girl with glasses and 2 ponytails. Her real name seems to be Fada, one of the strongest attack mages in Japan. Dustless recalled the relevant information about ancient song. He heard that the 3 saints of the Lion King organization were quite powerful, and even the true ancestors of the vampires were extremely afraid of them. Ancient Leisure had an ability called Silence Break, which allowed him to insert an attack that shouldn't have existed in the interval of time. It was an absolute preemptive attack power. Although he couldn't stop time or achieve the effect of teleportation, after the activation of the ability, he would only leave the reality that the opponent was defeated by his attack. With this ability, he became a monster that even the true ancestor of vampires had to respect. In other words, anyone who encountered Ancient Idler would be at a disadvantage. Interesting. Is this the Silent Break ability? This ability is invincible. Fiatise. Standing in front of the window, Dustless looked down at Itagami Island. His eyes were fixed on the horizon. Suddenly he saw Xian Koyang, who was studying in Saikai Academy. Looks like I can only let her do as she pleases. I can't kick her out of my home, can I? Dustless felt a headache coming on. This was a shared apartment, and it was impossible for him to kick her out. He needed Jijua Shelley's permission to do so. If that's the case, I'll have to look for trouble with the Lion King organization. Dustless stretched his body. He didn't want to be a busybody. After all, Ancient Idler would sleep with Jijua Shelley, so he didn't have to worry about anything. Hey, he went to the closet and took out his pajamas. When he was about to take a shower and sleep, he heard Ancient Idler's voice. Her voice was filled with jealousy. Don't you think it's perverted for a man like you to live in an apartment with 2 girls? Especially during these few days when I wasn't around. Did you do anything out of line to Shelley? Ancient Idler stared at Dustless with her bright eyes. Her clear eyes were full of wisdom. She would be able to find a loophole if there was one. As expected, this girl is gay. Dustless shuddered at Ancient Idler's strange interest in Ancient Idler. Why was she so happy to live in this apartment? She was treating him like a rival in love. I think you're even more perverted. You know that I'm a man, but you still shamelessly live in this apartment. You're obviously here to flirt with me. Dustless retorted sharply. Flirt with you? Ancient Idler's mouth twitched. She felt that Dustless was too shameless. She might get pregnant if she talked too much with him. The purpose of living in this apartment was just as Dustless thought. She was here to spy on him. Miss, you probably don't know about it yet, Dustless sneered. The Lion King organization had another nickname, the organization that sent women. Jijua Shelley was an example. She was sent to Koju Town as a concubine, but Dustless ruined it. Now Ancient Idler was sent here to spy on Dustless. Her orders were probably similar to Jijua Shelley's. If they could rope him in, they would do so. Once they realized that he was harmful to humanity, they would eliminate him immediately. Chapter 15:12. Huangban Sha glared at Dustless angrily. She thought, this guy is too rude. He doesn't know how to be a gentleman at all. Ladies' first rule is quite popular in this world. However, the tragic thing was that it didn't work here with Dustless. Fine, you win. Stomping her feet in anger, Yaha also felt helpless. At the end of the day, she was just a guest, and Wu Chen and Jijua Shuelai had the final say. Huangban Sha and Yahua were the ones who had the final say. Hee. With a hollow laugh, Wu Chen put on a compassionate expression and said, if you're willing to beg me, I'm willing to give up a quarter of my bed for you to sleep. A quarter? Huangban Sha's face darkened. She looked at Dustless's bedroom. It was just a small place. A quarter of it was only enough for half of her body. I'd rather sleep on the sofa. Huangban Sha glanced at Dustless coldly and turned her head away. She would rather die than live in dishonor. Sha, let's sleep together, Jijua Shelley said. Shelley, I knew you still love me. Hearing Wu Chen's words, Huangban Sha was overjoyed. She pulled Jijua and Shelley into her arms, then looked at Wu Chen with an exultant look on her face. Boring. Glancing faintly at Huangban Sayaka, Wu Chen turned around to take a bath and sleep. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was the morning of the next day. Since Koju still needed to go to school, Wu Chen and Jijua Shelley, who were in charge of monitoring him, naturally had to follow him. Although Natsuki Nangong had said that she would be in charge of Koju's Rainbow Sea Academy, Wu Chen, who wanted to cause trouble for the Lion King organization, decisively followed. What made him speechless was that Huangban Sha was still following him closely. This world is crazy, Dustless complained. He and Jijua Shelley were monitoring Koju while Huangban Sha was monitoring him. It felt like the world was a complete mess. Space was limited in the subway, and it was rush hour now, so it was very crowded. Bumps and collisions were inevitable. Bastard, where are you putting your hand? Suddenly, an ear-piercing shriek was heard. Dustless froze as he suddenly realized that his hand had been grabbed by a soft arm. He subconsciously followed the source. The person that entered his eyes was a beautiful young girl with soft golden hair that was as dazzling as gold. Her big watery eyes were bright and full of expression. She was wearing the school uniform of Kaihai Academy, and her slender and beautiful legs were exposed to Dustless's sight. Dustless was in a daze. He asked tentatively, Blue Feather, Shallow Onion? You know me? The blonde girl was obviously stunned. She looked at Dustless with some surprise, then grabbed his hand and said coldly, since it's me, you still dare to touch my butt. This is a knowing violation of the law. That's a double crime. The person who had ambushed Shallow Blue Feathers was Dustless. It's an unavoidable factor, Dustless replied with a serious expression. In fact, it really was an unavoidable factor. The space was limited, and it was very crowded. Shallow Blue Feathers was walking around, so it was normal for her to bump into him. Cough, cough, cough. Miss, what happened just now was a misunderstanding. Please believe my friend. Jijua Shelley noticed the conflict between Dustless and Shallow Blue Feathers. She quickly came to the rescue. We are roommates. Please believe him. Sure enough, I can't let Akatsuki take advantage of me. He looked at Jijua Shelley touched. It was the right decision to save her from Akatsuki's evil clutches. You better not let me see you again. She shook off Dustless's hand and glanced at Dustless, then continued to walk toward Akatsuki. What does this kid do? Dustless was quite puzzled after seeing this. He looked left and right and didn't find anything special about Koju. He was simply too weak. Despite being a true ancestor, he didn't seem to have any deterrence at all. His hair made him look like someone who deserved a beating. It's me and Shelley this time. You won't be so lucky next time, Huang Bansha said arrogantly. Dustless smiled and waved his hand. It was indeed Shelley who had helped him. If she hadn't, he might have caused some unnecessary trouble. Looks like we're here. After today, I'll treat you two to a meal. However, Huang Bansha shook her head decisively with a look of disdain. I refuse. If I eat with you, I will definitely get pregnant. This guy is really... Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't want to bicker with Huang Bansha. He looked at the magnificent school building through the window. That was his destination today, Saihai Academy. What grade is that Xiangguang? Dustless muttered to himself. He really didn't know, so he could only ask Natsuki Nangong. She should know which grade Xiangguang was in. As for Natsuki Nangong's office, it was easy to find. It was on the highest floor of Saihai Academy. It should be there. Looking up at the majestic building that was dozens of stories high, even though it was hundreds of meters away, Wuchen could still see it clearly, especially when the windows were open. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Dustless turned into a ray of light and rushed up. The speed of light was too fast and no one could see it clearly. He just happened to enter Natsuki Nangong's office through the open window. However, the scene in front of him shocked Dustless. What are you doing? Also, did I come to the wrong place? Chapter 15-13. He saw Nangong Natsuki lying naked on the sofa. Her pure white back was clearly visible, and Asteruti, who was wearing a maid uniform, was massaging her. He could even hear Natsuki nodding her head. Cough cough cough. Dustless had to cough twice to prove his existence. Due to the angle of Natsuki Nangong's body, he could even see where he shouldn't be looking. Asteruti looked at Dustless in a daze. Her gem-like eyes were calm, and she only spoke after 4 or 5 seconds. Dustless has invaded. Do you want to attack? Natsuki Nangong turned her head to look at Dustless, who was embarrassed, and said lazily, climbing in through my window. That's a high-level method. There are dozens of floors between us, but... Natsuki Nangong paused for a moment. Then her voice became very low. You better give me a reasonable explanation. Or else. Humph. Natsuki Nangong's tone was resolute, and in Dustless's ears, it sounded like she wanted to die together with him. This is a misunderstanding. Who would have thought that you would enjoy it so much? Hearing this, Wuchen argued with reason. He was speechless about Natsuki Nangong. Now it seems to be working hours, but you are actually doing a massage here. Can you blame me for this? What's your purpose? Natsuki Nangong asked calmly. Don't tell me it's for the Lion King Authority. I heard that they have already noticed you. Then your information is really outdated. Wuchen rolled his eyes and sat on Nangong Nayu's usual seat. He glanced at her exquisite figure from the corner of his eyes and nodded slightly. You have guts. I've seen your butt 9 times, your chest 13 times. While Dustless was admiring her body, Natsuki Nangong's teasing voice sounded. Although it was very quiet, there was a different kind of pressure. Looking closely, Asteruti's hair was already dripping with sweat. Only Dustless was able to deal with it unperturbed, turning a deaf ear to everything as if they didn't exist. Don't you dare slander my innocence, Dustless coldly said. His heart was filled with awkwardness. Just now he had been in a daze. That was why Natsuki Nangong had caught him. However, Dustless would never admit to this kind of thing. Sorry for the sudden visit, I just want to ask who that ancient leisure song is. How do you know this person? Natsuki Nangong turned her head and stared at Dustless, but when she mentioned the name, ancient leisure song, her tone was obviously several times louder. Although I don't know what your relationship is, if you want to take revenge on her then. Just as Nangong Natsuya was about to persuade Dustless to extinguish his ambitions, Dustless spoke first. "You're right, I want to take revenge on her." Wu Chen nodded fearlessly and admitted, "Those guys from the Lion King organization don't know what's good for them. They actually sent someone to spy on me. They've gone too far." Dustless said hatefully. He was determined to teach the Lion King organization a lesson. "They sent people to spy on you?" Natsuki Nangong was stunned. She raised her eyebrows and her face didn't look good. No matter what, Wu Chen was still her subordinate. Being suddenly monitored by the people of the Lion King organization without distinguishing between right and wrong, wasn't this equivalent to slapping her face? "Not just spying on me. They already sent people over. My roommate went from 1 to 2. Wu Chen rolled his eyes angrily and said impatiently, "In short, where is the guy called Leisure Ancient Song? This time I'm going to beat her, until her mother can't recognize her." His arrogance knows no bounds. Natsuki Nangong sighed. "You're very strong, but Ancient Leisure Song isn't weak either. Her ability is very strange. I still haven't found a way to suppress her. It's not a matter of strength." Dustless nodded. Ancient Leisure Song's ability was indeed extraordinary. If they were to fight, Dustless was confident that he could kill her in an instant. However, if she wanted to use her ability to act shamelessly, Dustless couldn't do anything about it. However, she could run away, but the temple couldn't. He could smash the Lion King organization's headquarters. But Natsuki Nangong's eyes were filled with hostility. She said bluntly, "Those people and I are competitors. This time, they dared to send people to bully my little brother. I won't let them off so easily." Natsuki Nangong's angry look was quite cute. She can't be thinking of. Dustless's expression was strange. He suddenly guessed what Natsuki Nangong wanted to do. "Let's go. We'll go and ask for an explanation. We can teach Ancient Leisure Song a lesson." Ta-ta-ta-ta. Heavy footsteps could be heard in the corridor. "Why is she looking for me?" The young girl lowered her head and thought. This person was Ancient Leisure Song. She slowly walked towards the rooftop. Her heart was filled with questions. Although she and Natsuki Nangong were familiar with each other, they rarely interacted with each other. The Lion King organization's relationship with the other departments was very bad. Creak. She gently pushed open the locked door. A petite black figure appeared in front of her. She was dressed like a gothic loli. No matter what, she was holding a parasol and a black lace fan. However, what made Ancient Leisure Song dissatisfied was that there was another person standing beside Natsuki Nangong. "Yo!" Dustless turned around and waved his hand. He revealed a polite smile. "It's you?" Ancient Leisure Song's expression froze. A trace of anger flashed in her eyes. She didn't say that there would be other people joining them. She felt like she was cheated. "You feel uncomfortable just like that? But you sending a spy to spy on me is 100 times worse than this." Wu Chen didn't give Xian Guyong any face the moment he came up. This guy said that he would monitor him, and he really did. Did he really think that the Lion King organization was a local snake? "To be honest, I called you here to slap your face." Chapter 15-14. This bastard is doing this on purpose. Hearing this, Nangong Nayu's beautiful face twitched a few times. Her stomach churned, and she almost spat out the black tea she just drank. "I called you here to slap you in the face." Thinking back to Dustless's arrogant words, Nangong Nayu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "I shouldn't get involved in this matter. Sooner or later, I will be killed by this guy. Being so arrogant will also bring me bad luck." Before she came, she had discussed with Dustless that they had to act according to her plan. Who would have thought that as soon as she met Xian Guyong, Dustless would turn hostile? Teach me a lesson? Even with Xian Guyong's calm personality, her expression collapsed at this moment. First of all, as one of the 3 saints of the Lion King organization, Xian Guyong's strength was unquestionable. Even the true ancestor was wary of her. Now that Dustless said he wanted to slap her in the face, how could she bear it? Absolutely not. Not to mention, Nangong Nayu was right in front of her, and their relationship was not very harmonious. If I cower, I will be ridiculed by her. Xian Guiyang calmed herself down and coldly stared at Dustless. She asked politely, "If you want to hit me, you can do so, but first give me a reason that can convince me." Dustless was not moved by her words. He casually said, "I have no reason to cause trouble for you. I just don't like an old virgin like you. Is this reason enough?" Puchi. This time, Nangong Nayu finally could not hold back and spat out all the black tea. She secretly gave Dustless a thumbs up, but her expression did not change. She took the initiative to distance herself from Dustless, afraid that she would be implicated. "You asked for it." Xian Guiyang could no longer bear it, and a cold light shot out from her beautiful eyes. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. After that, Xian Guiyang flashed across the air and appeared in front of Dustless. He clenched his fists and punched towards Dustless's face mercilessly. The explosive power contained in his fists was enough to destroy a building. Xian Guiyang's body power was even greater than Jijua Shelley's. On the other hand, Dustless remained calm from beginning to end. His expression didn't change at all, as if he hadn't realized all of this. I thought you were strong, but it turns out that you're just a vase with a loose tongue. I need to teach you a lesson to vent my anger." Xian Guiyang did not show any mercy as long as he did not kill Dustless. At this moment, her heart was burning with anger, like an erupting volcano. As one of the 3 saints of the Lion King organization, she was called an old maid. What kind of shame and humiliation was this? Asking for trouble. Dustless slowly shook his head and watched the incoming fist. His mouth whispered, "Armament hockey hardening." Bang bang bang. The entire roof shook as a violent shockwave spread out. Even Nangong Nayu was forced to retreat. She looked at Nangong Nayu. He managed to block it? Nangong Nayu's mouth trembled as she looked at Dustless and Xian Guiyang with her eyes wide open. Dustless put his hands in his pockets and didn't put up any defense. His chest was hit by Xian Guiyang's fist, but nothing happened. How is this possible? Not only Nangong Nayu was shocked, Xian Guiyang's jaw almost dislocated. She looked at Dustless in a daze. She finally understood why this guy dared to call her an old maid. He was an out-and-out capable person. Although this girl's strength is average, her ability is very troublesome. I need to end this as soon as possible. It's best if I can injure her severely without killing Xian Guiyang. Having made a decision in his heart, Dustless no longer concealed himself and revealed his true appearance. Boom boom boom. An explosion sounded in the cloudless sky. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. The soft sky was torn apart, and a 10-kilometer-long dark ravine appeared in the sky. Let alone Itagami Island, the ravine was getting bigger and bigger. Ka ka ka. Xian Guiyang's expression changed drastically as a terrifying aura gathered around her body. She couldn't help but kneel down. The culprit was none other than this harmless-looking young man. "Now I have the right to call you an old maid, right?" Squatting down, Wu Chen playfully grabbed Xian Guiyang's chin, picked his ears, and asked with a smile, "By the way, I've always been a vengeful person. Just now, who said that he wanted to teach her a lesson?" Xian Guiyang forced a smile after hearing this sentence, but it was uglier than crying. Under this monstrous aura, forget about teaching Dustless a lesson. If it wasn't for her strong foundation, just this aura alone would have been enough to knock her out. What kind of monster is this bastard? Is there a 5th primogenitor in this world? Nangong Natsuki and Xian Guiyang sucked in a breath of cold air, as they looked at the sky that had been torn apart. This was like the wrath of a god. With his own aura he could destroy the boundless sky in one fell swoop. Destroying the world would not be a problem. Your Lion King organization sent people to spy on me. Don't tell me you don't intend to give me an explanation? I know your ability is very troublesome, but as the saying goes, a monk can run away, but the temple can't run with him. If you don't give me a reasonable explanation, I will dismantle your Lion King organization. Both of his eyes shot out scarlet demonic light, and the surroundings immediately froze. Xian Guiyang didn't dare to doubt the authenticity of this sentence. For a temperamental person like Wu Chen, he might have dismantled the Lion King's mechanism, because he was in a bad mood. So this is the reason why you are finding trouble with me. At the same time, Xian Guiyang heaved a sigh of relief. She thought it was some idiot who provoked Dustless. She didn't expect it to be because of such a trivial matter. But this matter must be dealt with carefully. Xian Gaiyong opened her mouth, but closed it in the end. This matter wasn't a small matter, but it wasn't a big matter either. The key was how to deal with it. If they don't give Dustless an explanation, he might really destroy the Lion King organization in anger. Chapter 15:15. Koyomi felt a headache as she regretted it. It's all Yae Smoky's fault. Although the relationship between Koyomi and Yae Smoky was unclear, and the two of them even had an ambiguous relationship, she still complained that Yae Smoky was a little reckless this time. If this fellow could report Dustless's information in a little more detail, it would also not go to the extent of stirring up this sort of big trouble. Oh right. An idea flashed through Xiaogu's mind. He calmly explained, "You've misunderstood. We didn't send anyone to spy on you." "You want to deny it?" Dustless frowned. If it was a stranger, he could fool them, but as a transmigrator, he knew that Hanban Sayaka was the Lion King organization's dancing beauty. She had Rokushiki heavy armor demon subduing Bao, Huang Hualin. "Then tell me about it." Wu Chen listened attentively. "The real reason why we sent Hanban Sayaka to your side is..." Koyomi took a deep breath and tried to calm herself down. "I hope that you and Sayaka will get along well." "You have the nerve to say such a lousy excuse?" Dustless curled his lips in disdain. But this was the truth. The Lion King organization had another nickname, Sister Sending Agency. However, Dustless felt that it was a lousy excuse. Natsuki Nangong could still reluctantly accept it. The Lion King organization often did such things. Jijua Shelley was the best example. On the surface, she was the fourth ancestor's monitor, but in reality, she was sent to Koju as a wife to control him. Natsuki felt that it was normal for Koju to have such an idea. If Dustless had a future, they could use Hanban Sayaka to control him. Even if Dustless was useless, they could just retreat. Bang bang bang. Suddenly, there was a messy sound of footsteps in the corridor. There's always someone who doesn't know what's going on. Dustless's face was filled with killing intent. The Haushika hockey just now was really shocking, and the endless void was torn apart. Such an unusual weather change couldn't be hidden from someone's eyes. Bang. The locked door was kicked open, and a silver-haired boy came into view. Dustless? When he saw Dustless's face, Koju's expression turned gloomy. From the moment he met Dustless, Koju's tragic life began. Becoming the fourth ancestor didn't bring him supreme glory, but countless tragic events. Even his younger sister's opinion of him had changed. She treated Koju as a pervert and kept a respectful distance from him. A lot of bad luck had started after meeting Dustless. Ah, Gucheng, don't look at me with such hatred. Some occasions require a positive character or a supervillain. Dustless shrugged and said helplessly. The corner of Koju's mouth twitched, and he immediately understood what that meant. His expression became even more gloomy as he said, "So, I am destined to be the tragic villain, and you are the hero?" "Not bad." Dustless smiled and nodded. Koju's face turned red, and countless unwillingness rushed into his head. An unprecedented resentment appeared, and his body began to emit golden lightning. "Thanks to you, I wasn't interested in the identity of the fourth ancestor. But, thanks to your oppression and humiliation, I awakened and controlled a curly beast." Koju's cold tone was a bit proud. "Is that so?" As expected of the strongest fourth ancestor. Dustless's expression was ordinary as he said softly, "Looking at the formation, it should be the fifth curly beast, the lion's yellow chicken. No, it should be called the lion's gold, right?" Although Dustless changed his words, Dustless still made Koju angry. "Lion's yellow chicken? What kind of disgusting name was that?" "Are you ready?" Koju said coldly. When his voice fell, Xian Gaiyong and Natsuki's expressions changed slightly, and they were very dissatisfied with Koju. "Koju, this is a school. You want to release your curly beast? Don't talk nonsense." Natsuki scolded with a stern face. "The personal grudge between you two is a misunderstanding." Natsuki glared at Dustless. She knew that this bastard was purposely making things difficult for Koju every day. "Please stop," Xian Gaiyong said calmly. She meant that Koju was not allowed to release his curly beast, let alone a true ancestor's curly beast. Even a normal vampire's curly beast would be extremely dangerous to students. It might even cause Itagami Island to explode. Koju was the fourth ancestor, and his magic power was above the dragon vein. His curly beast could even destroy heaven and earth. This was the reason why the ancestors were so arrogant. It's fine. I can now perfectly control the fifth curly beast. The lion's yellow chicken, no. The lion's gold. Koju's mouth twitched, and his face darkened. Unknowingly, he was also led into a ditch by Dustless. Come out, lion's gold. His magic power exploded to an unimaginable degree. A large number of mysterious runes appeared on Koju's curly beast. Then, a golden divine beast descended from the sky. So strong. Xiangayong and Natsuki's expressions changed. A true ancestor's curly beast was no joke. It could easily destroy Itagami Island. Then I'll get serious too. Dustless's eyes narrowed as he looked at the golden lion descending from the sky. His dry lips parted slightly. Dawnbreaker's 90 black coffin. Countless black crescent moons descended from the sky. If one looked carefully, they would find that each of them was actually a terrifying blade. Their densely packed numbers blotted out the sky. In just a moment, the world became dark as all of them attacked Koju's curling beast. Poochie, Poochie, Poochie. A few horrifying cutting sounds suddenly came. The golden lion in the sky howled a few times and disappeared. The dense black shadowless blades had killed it in an instant. Chapter 15-16. Poochie. The ear-piercing sound continued to echo in the ears of Natsuki and Koyama. They stared blankly at the dismembered curly beast in the sky. Their bodies remained motionless as if they had been petrified. This was a curly beast of a true ancestor. Even if Koju was only a dabbler, the strength of these curly beasts was undeniably strong. Am I dreaming? Koju, who was deeply shocked, was stunned. He subconsciously pinched his right hand. Damn it, it hurts. The intense pain caused Koju's face to darken. But the pain in his body was far less than the mental blow. His eyes locked onto Dustless, unwilling to give up. He simply couldn't remember what sort of monster this fellow was. In this world, the true ancestors were recognized as the strongest. The three true ancestors had almost divided the entire world. Although Koju, the fourth true ancestor, was a rising star and might not be as strong as them, there was no reason why he couldn't kill a mere human. How should I deal with you now, Koju? Dustless approached Koju with a playful look. He had a playful smile on his face. Not to mention Xiao Guqing. Even Xiangayong and Nangong Natsuki felt pity for Xiao Guqing. Xiao Guqing was playing with his life. He wanted to take revenge and wash away his shame, but he couldn't treat his life as a joke. There's no need to be nervous. Relax. Dustless was very friendly. It was as if he had met an old friend. Koju couldn't help but let his guard down. Dustless took advantage of the moment when he was careless. He walked in front of Koju and said something that only the two of them could hear. Actually, I want to ask you something. Whose blood did you suck to awaken the fifth curly beast? Dustless narrowed his eyes. Koju wanted to say something but stopped. His face turned red as he lowered his head. He cursed Dustless in his heart. This guy was clearly trying to embarrass him. Could it be Motoki Yase? Dustless said in a strange tone. I sensed the same aura from him as the lion's gold. You must have sucked his blood to awaken the fifth scroll beast, right? This is a serious question, please don't talk nonsense. Xiao Guyong said with a pale face. It's not impossible. Compared to Xiao Guyong, Natsuki found it much easier to accept. Koju had often been oppressed by Dustless, and he had awakened his blood-sucking beast. It was understandable that he wanted to defeat Dustless. What happened? What's the matter with all of you? In the corridor, there was another burst of hurried footsteps. As the figure quickly approached, the graceful silhouette gradually became clearer. This person was none other than Jijua Shelley, who was in charge of monitoring the fourth true ancestor, Akatsuki Kogu. So it's Shelley. It's nothing. Koju Akatsuki and Motoki Yase are just gay. Dustless said casually, with a cunning look in his eyes. Gay. Everyone was shocked when they heard that word. It was not that they were uneducated, but they had never heard of that word before. What do you mean? Jishuasheli was confused. It means that Koju Akatsuki is gay. Dustless exposed Koju Akatsuki's scars. Bastard. Don't talk nonsense. I'll sue you for slander. Koju Akatsuki said with a dark face. I'm a normal man, you're gay. Oh, everyone is here. As soon as Koju Akatsuki's voice faded, a figure that Koju Akatsuki didn't want to see appeared. He was wearing headphones, and the most obvious thing was that there were 2 teeth marks on his neck. It was Motoki Yase. This is bad. Koju Akatsuki was stunned. He subconsciously glanced at Dustless, who had already walked to Motoki Yase, and was circling him. Everyone, look at the 2 teeth marks on this guy's neck. Dustless's words attracted everyone's attention. The 2 teeth marks were very obvious. Although they had already healed, there were still scars. Motoki, give me an explanation. Koyomi suppressed the anger in her heart and asked. She and Motoki Yase weren't really boyfriend and girlfriend, but everyone knew about their relationship. Now there was news that Koju Akatsuki and Motoki Yase were gay. Koyomi was about to vomit blood. I accidentally touched it. Motoki Yase hurriedly denied. If Dustless found out that Koju Akatsuki had sucked his blood, he wouldn't be able to face anyone anymore. Is that so? Dustless smiled but didn't say anything. He stared at Koju Akatsuki, and a beam of light appeared on his fingertip. Laser. The beam of light shot straight at Koju Akatsuki. You want to defeat me with this? You underestimate me. Koju Akatsuki looked disdainful. His body emitted a golden halo, and the place where he stood formed a golden shield that deflected the beam of light. It was the ability of the 5th scroll beast, Lion's Gold. Oh no. Motoki Yase's heart sank. As the blood medium of Lion's Gold, he was naturally affected. His body emitted a special aura that was the same as Lion's Gold. Goodbye. Koyomi snorted coldly and left with a face full of disgust. Jishuasheli also did the same. Koju Akatsuki gave her a bad feeling, and now he was gay. Natsuki Nangong also shook her head and left. Please continue. Dustless also left decisively, leaving the stage to the 2 gays. This is what you get for offending me. Your girlfriend ran away. Serves you right. Wu Chen was secretly pleased. Yase Moki was the one who tipped them off, so the Lion King organization sent people to monitor him. Now that he was labeled as a gay, Xian Guyong probably wouldn't care about him anymore. Chapter 15-17. Motoki Yase and Koju looked at each other with sadness written all over their faces. Damn it. It's all Dustless's fault. Koju complained. Because of Dustless's instigation, Akatsuki Koju's reputation was already in tatters. He had become a street rat that everyone wanted to beat up. Today, what was even worse was that he had to bear the label of being a homosexual. He was being treated as a homosexual. Humph. It's all your fault. Motoki Yase cursed in his heart. It was all because of Koju that he was inexplicably sucked of his blood. Now even his good friend of many years, Xiao Guyong, had left him. He was particularly unlucky and depressed, and for the first time, he felt resentful towards his good friend. Cough cough cough. Yase-kun, there's something I want to talk to you about. Koju said with embarrassment. Spit it out. Motoki Yase was unhappy. His girlfriend left him. He was very unhappy. I was injured by Dustless just now. Can you? Koju pointed at the burn mark on his abdomen. There was an obvious burn mark on his abdomen. He looked at Motoki with an imploring look. You want to suck my blood? Bastard, don't come near me. Yase Motoki warned loudly as he looked at Koju suspiciously. Don't tell me it's the same as that guy said. Are you really gay? Koju was speechless as he looked at Motoki Yase. It was fine that Wuchen doubted him, but now even his best friend suspected that he was gay. We've known each other for a few years. Don't you know what kind of person I am? Koju said angrily. That was all made up by Dustless. Don't talk nonsense. Suck my blood and heal my wounds. Koju didn't care whether Moki agreed or not. He pounced on Moki, who was caught off guard, and was pinned to the ground. Kacha. Koju bared his sharp fangs and bit Moki's neck. Dustless was quite ruthless. Koju's abdomen was badly burned. If it was an ordinary injury, he could just grit his teeth and endure it. But this time, the pain made him grimace. He couldn't bear it any longer. TSK. As expected, it was the right decision to return. Luckily, I borrowed a camera from Natsuki. In a certain corner, Dustless excitedly stared at Koju and Mokiyasu, who were rolling on the ground. He quickly picked up his camera and took a few close-up shots of the two people fighting fiercely. Tomorrow, the photos of the two of you in love will be spread throughout the entire Rainbow Sea Academy. Dustless laughed dryly. He didn't want to disturb Koju and Moki's good time. He left quietly and left the rest of the time for them to play to their heart's content. The next morning in the spacious classroom, Xiao Guqing was lazily lying on his desk. He touched the wound on his stomach and nodded with satisfaction. Vampires have amazing recovery abilities. Even Dustless doesn't have my recovery abilities. If I work a little harder, I can definitely surpass him. Unlike Koju in the original work, Koju in this world desperately wanted to become stronger. Only then would he not be mocked and humiliated by Dustless. But if I want to awaken other curly beasts, I will need a new blood source. Koju had a splitting headache. This was the biggest and most troublesome problem. Koju. At this time, a slender girl suddenly appeared in front of him. Koju's eyes flashed. He was familiar with this person. It was Azure Wing. That Azure Wing. Koju's voice came to an abrupt halt. Azure Wing was holding a photo and walking over angrily. Her face was red, and her sadness was clear. There were even tears at the corner of her eyes. Azure Wing, who bullied you? I will help you teach him a lesson. Koju's sense of justice was bursting. His good friend was being bullied. Azure Wing was even angrier when she heard this. The one who bullied me is you, you bastard. Azure Wing scolded. She then mercilessly slapped Koju in the face. Slap, slap, slap. The crisp sound was particularly loud. A clear palm print appeared on Koju's face. Under everyone's gaze, Koju was slapped several times. What's going on? Is this woman crazy? Koju was stunned and looked constipated. I'm crazy. Azure Wing was even angrier. She threw the photo in her hand at Koju's face and said with hatred, "No wonder Kiki has been following you. I didn't expect you two to have such a relationship. There's nothing going on between us." Koju felt his balls ache. He picked up the photo on the ground and glanced at it. He was so angry that he almost fainted. The photo was of him and Moki being intimate. It was the process of him sucking Moki's blood yesterday. TSK. This is really good. Dustless, who was secretly observing this, laughed. It was more comfortable than beating up Koju himself. Humph. Suddenly, there was a heavy groan behind him. Dustless was stunned. He subconsciously turned his head and saw Nangong Natsuki, who was hugging her chest, and Asterudi, who was dressed as a maid. Cough, cough, cough. What's the matter? Dustless scratched his head and said awkwardly. This is your salary for this month. Go buy some decent clothes. Don't embarrass me tonight. Natsuki handed Dustless a large stack of cash. What distinguished guest is visiting? Dustless was surprised. Someone invited me to a banquet tonight. I have to bring a partner. Natsuki handed Dustless an invitation. The name of the inviter was familiar. Dimitri Vatler. Chapter 15-18. Dustless stood there motionlessly. He neither agreed nor refused. He just remained silent. No one knew what he was thinking. If you don't have time, I'll go find Koju. Natsuki saw that Dustless did not reply and turned to leave. Wait. Dustless's body flashed and appeared in front of Natsuki. He looked at the unhappy Natsuki and said bluntly, Don't you think that Dimitri Vatler has other motives? Of course I know. Although that snake player looks like a battle maniac, he is actually very meticulous. He definitely has a scheme. That's why I want to go and take a look. But his banquet seems to be targeted at me. I need to find a partner of the opposite sex. At the end, Natsuki stomped her feet in annoyance like a child. That's why I'll let you be my partner this time. Of course, if you don't want to, I'll let Koju take advantage of you. Natsuki, Nangong said indifferently. After all, she had nothing to lose. You. Hearing this, Dustless was speechless. He did not expect Natsuki to be so shameless. No problem, I agree. Dustless gritted his teeth and agreed. Although he did not like that Vattler, he would not lose anything by going. At night, the weather turned cold. The sea was filled with bone-chilling winds. Even so, there were still celebrities from all over the world. They were all wearing elegant gowns. The women were wearing skirts. Even if they were shivering from the cold, they endured it. Looking at the luxurious ship docked at the port, everyone was shocked. This luxurious cruise ship was unprecedentedly large. When it sailed on the sea, it was as shocking as a moving mountain. Damn nouveau riche, evil capitalist. His mouth twitched. Looking at the luxurious cruise ship, Dustless had the urge to stomp on it. Natsuki beside him was also dressed up. Her face was like carved jade. She had a noble temperament and an inexplicable majesty. She was very attractive. She changed into a beautiful white dress. Of course, it was still the same gothic lowly outfit. Natsuki nodded. This time, she didn't oppose Dustless. That snake charmer really likes to show off. If there's a chance, we must make his deep-sea tomb sink. The so-called Tomb of the Deep Sea was the name of this luxury cruise ship. Don't worry about that. If there's a chance, I'll definitely make it disappear. Dustless dryly laughed a few times, and then gave Natsuki a reassuring look. Let's go. I want to see what the snake charmer is up to. Natsuki grabbed Dustless's arm and boarded the luxury cruise ship with Dustless. As expected of a tycoon. After boarding the ship, the entire appearance of the cruise ship was exposed to Dustless's eyes. It was extremely luxurious, and there were countless swimming pools and entertainment facilities. It was as if they were still on land. Is it Miss Nangong? This side is lighter. The maid took the initiative to walk in front of Dustless and Nangong Nayu. She pointed at a quiet corridor. The two nodded and walked over. I wonder if that brat Koju will come. Wuchen was quite curious. In the original novel, Akatsuki Koju had come with Ji Shelley as his female companion. But now, when Ji Shelley saw Akatsuki Koju, she didn't seem to care at all. If it weren't for Huangban Sha and Yahua, Akatsuki Koju might have already been chopped into pieces by Ji Shelley. Rich people really know how to enjoy life. Walking up the stairs, the first thing he saw was a spacious first-class cabin. Luxury is a must, especially now that the wind has stopped blowing. The cool sea breeze is especially comfortable. Plus, the view of Itagami Island from the cruise ship is breathtaking. Aoao, aoao, aoao. At this time, a hysterical roar came from the void. Dustless and Nangong Natue were startled. They turned their heads to look at the source of the roar. That Vattler is really a bat that deserves a beating. A purplish-black light shot toward them. Its target was Dustless and Nangong Natue. You're right. Nangong Natue nodded in agreement. She admitted to Dustless's words. What are you waiting for? Seeing Dustless standing there like a fool, Nangong Natue jumped up and pinched Dustless's ear. You have to understand that I brought you here to humiliate him. This guy is really up to no good. Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't like Nangong Natue's actions, but this annoying bat in front of him was even more annoying. Binding Path 81, sky-shattering. With a shout, a transparent barrier as thin as a cicada's wing appeared in front of Dustless and Nangong Natue. Ah, looks like I've been underestimated. You want to use such a weak barrier to block my attack? Nangong Natue, you sure have low standards. How could you find such a... Vattler stopped abruptly midway through his sentence. Boom boom boom. The purplish-black ball of light hit Dustless's barrier with full force. Dustless thought that the barrier would be broken, but it turned out to be very sturdy. Not only did it block Vattler's attack, it didn't even budge. A firefly's light is just a flower in the night. It's impossible for it to reach the top. Dustless glanced at Vattler. He didn't waste any more time, and continued to stare at the night view of Itagami Island. Snake player, pay attention to your words. My partner is someone that even a true ancestor fears. Nangong Natue purposely closed the distance between her and Dustless. He could even feel her small breasts. However, the size was negligible. This guy is doing this on purpose. Dustless's sharp senses picked up on something else. Vattler was a battle maniac. If he knew that Dustless was as strong as a true ancestor, he would pursue him relentlessly. Chapter 15-19. Natsuya, on the other hand, was harboring malicious intentions. She wanted to borrow Dustless's hand to teach this arrogant fellow a lesson. It would be best if he lost all his face. Is that so? That's something to look forward to. Sure enough, just as Natsuya expected, Vattler's eyes were shining as he stared at Dustless. He looked like a hunter who had found his prey. Ha 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 ha. At this time, a voice filled with schadenfreude rang out. Dustless and Natsuya were startled. This voice was especially familiar to Natsuya. She could hear it every day. Following the source of the voice, a silver-haired youth appeared before them. Koju. Natsuya and Dustless both frowned. This was especially true for Dustless. Why was it that no matter where they went, they would always run into this jinx? This guy instantly killed my curly beast. He's much stronger than me, Koju said with admiration as he gave Dustless a thumbs up. Only the smile on his face didn't seem to be genuine praise for Dustless. A human could instantly kill a primordial ancestor's curly beast? How is that possible? Vattler's elegant and calm face revealed a trace of astonishment. He was becoming more and more curious about Dustless's background and personal strength. Although Koju wasn't very competent as a primordial ancestor, the fact that he could instantly kill a primordial ancestor's curly beast was too shocking. Koju's strength hasn't grown much, but his scheming has deepened. Is this a side effect of being bullied by Dustless? Natsuya frowned. As the fourth primordial ancestor, the more Koju praised Dustless, the deeper Vattler's obsession with Dustless. It's just that a certain primordial ancestor is too weak. He can't even deal with a human. The title of fourth primordial ancestor is simply given to a pig. Dustless retorted. What did you say? Koju's mouth twitched as he glared at Dustless. If it weren't for the difference in strength, he would have taught Dustless a lesson. Wasn't this the same as calling him a pig? However, after thinking about it, Koju felt ashamed. He was a true ancestor, but he was nothing compared to the other true ancestors who ruled the world. But then again, if I remember correctly, the banquet held on this ship can only be attended by male or female companions, right? Dustless said as he looked at Koju with a smile. This bastard. Koju's heart skipped a beat. He knew that Dustless was going to reopen his scars again. He was very depressed and wanted nothing more than to find a hole to crawl into. Then, Mr. Koju, where's your partner? Dustless looked around and didn't see Koju's partner. He then sneered. I almost forgot that you're gay. Just bring ye smoky. Don't slander me. Koju's face darkened. I received a personal invitation from Mr. Vattler, Xiao Guqing said with a hint of pride. Everyone had to bring a partner of the opposite sex to participate, and he was an exception among the countless people. This idiot. Dustless and Natsuki looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. Koju's reaction was a bit slow. It seemed like he didn't know what Vattler's personal invitation meant. He probably wants to devour Koju. I heard that Snake Player has already devoured 2 elder-level vampires. His strength is very close to that of a true ancestor. Natsuki muttered. She vaguely understood why Vattler would personally invite Koju. Koju might be here to test how much he has grown. Once he reaches the standard, Vattler will probably make a move on him. I really don't know why this idiot is so smug. Natsuki-chan, your student is too weak. He's as slow as a block of wood. Maybe it won't be long before the fourth true ancestor leaves, and is replaced by the new fourth true ancestor, Vattler. Dustless looked at Natsuki with a mocking expression. Hearing this, Nangong Natinyu turned her head and snorted. She looked at Vattler with an unfriendly gaze. This guy was too unbridled. Snake Player, why did you call me here? If it's just a boring chat, then forgive me for being blunt, but I'm really angry right now. When she said the last few words, Natsuki Nangong was clearly angry. She had not dressed so carefully to see Vattler's pretentious display of superiority. Ah, Vatler sighed in a bored voice. I hate this kind of boring banquet as well. The henchman of the Black Death Emperor faction, Christopher Judson. You might have heard of him before, right? He's the new leader of the Black Death Emperor faction. He used to be a famous soldier in Europe, but he's now a terrorist. He's currently infiltrating Itagami Island with the intention of wreaking havoc. Hold on. Dustless waved his hand and interrupted Vatler. That means the terrorist is from Europe, from Battle King's territory, right? You should be fully responsible for this. That's right. Natsuki nodded in agreement. That's why. Dustless looked at Vatler and laughed dryly. I know the terrorist's goal is to cause destruction, but he's from Battle King's territory. You can just compensate him with a few trillion or give him a few million square kilometers of land. Even with Vatler's temper, he was angered by Dustless's words. Money is one thing, but territory isn't something that can be compensated so casually. How big is Earth? A few million square kilometers? Chapter 15:20. The veins on Vatler's forehead were clearly bulging, and his eyes flashed with a hint of devastation. Just Dustless's arrogant words alone were enough to kill him. Even though the fourth primogenitor lost to Dustless, Vatler wasn't afraid. Koju was just a trash primogenitor. Vatler was confident that he could defeat Koju. You dare to ask War Monarch's domain to give up its territory? You sure have guts. Vatler smiled. You really are a jinx. If I stay with you, I might be killed by a primogenitor. How many days have I known you? You already provoked the fourth primogenitor. Now you dare to provoke the first primogenitor? Dustless's strange condition not only shocked Vatler, but also Natsuki. She almost fell over. The first primogenitor, the Forgotten War Monarch, was not someone a trash primogenitor like Koju could compare to. He was a god-tier fighter who could destroy the world. Sorry, compensation is not possible, so, Vatler's lips curled into a sly grin. When you discover those terrorists, just inform me. I will personally head over to Itagami Island to wipe them out. I refuse. Nangong Natsuyu's words were filled with determination. Her firm tone left no room for negotiation. Send Vatler to eliminate the terrorists? What a joke. This kind of battle maniac could do all kinds of crazy things. Who knows, he might even help the terrorists in a moment of joy. It sounded ridiculous. As a noble of War Monarch's domain, why would he help the terrorists? But that was the truth. For the joy of battle, he would abandon his position. Vatler was such a person. Are you sure? Vatler wasn't surprised. He shrugged. If that's the case, then I will have to trouble you to help me eliminate the remnants of Black Death Emperor faction. I will be eternally grateful. This bastard. Natsuki glared at Vatler. This bastard's method was too despicable. No matter what happened, Vatler would not be implicated. I went to the island to help you catch them, but you didn't want to. I don't care if Itagami Island gets sunk by terrorists. That was what Vatler was trying to say. Well, allow me to interrupt. I want to ask, are you sure you want us to help you eliminate the remnants of the Black Death Emperor faction? Are you sure you won't regret it? Dustless stood out and asked. His eyes were shining, revealing a different meaning. Of course. Vatler nodded seriously. Although he didn't know what Dustless was planning, one thing was for sure. He also hoped that this group of remnants would be annihilated. This fellow is truly shameless. Does he think that I don't know that the Black Death Imperial faction is on his ship? Dustless sneered inwardly. However, on the surface he remained calm. Everyone, be careful when you exterminate the Black Death Emperor faction. Those guys have the weapon of the ancient gods, Belacuvula. Vatler said solemnly, but his expression was sloppy. Since your excellency wants us to exterminate the Black Death Emperor faction, I will begin my work now. A ferocious smile flashed across his face. Looking at the unsightly luxury cruise ship under his feet, Wu Chen's feet suddenly condensed a large amount of light. The dazzling flash made people dare not look at it. Lightspeed kick. As the giant flashing foot fell, the luxurious cruise ship named Tomb of the Deep Sea fiercely trembled. An exaggerated scorched crater that was 20 to 30 meters long appeared in its wake. Asterisk creak. Asterisk the deep-sea tomb could no longer withstand such a heavy attack. It started to sink slowly. Dustless, are you crazy? How dare you provoke Vatler on his ship? Natsuki asked with a dark expression. Even though she felt good, attacking another country's ship was a slap in the face. You better give me an explanation. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. Vatler's face turned green. Demonic energy flowed out of his body. You asked me to do this. Wu Chen had an innocent look on his face as he said in a strange tone. You wanted us to help you destroy the Black Death Emperor faction, right? Those guys are on this ship. I'm attacking this ship to destroy their stronghold. That's why. I destroyed your ship for your own good, Mr. Vatler. You should be thanking me. Dustless said seriously. If you don't thank me properly, I will not let you leave Itagami Island so easily. After all, I helped you solve a huge problem. Thank you? Vatler almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He glared at Wu Chun with fire in his eyes and veins popping out on his forehead. You destroyed my ship for no reason, and you want me to thank you? You can't bully me like this. Especially Dustless's last sentence. Vatler was furious. It was as if he was warning himself that if he did not thank him, he would not let him off the hook either. The Black Death Emperor faction is on my ship? Ridiculous. What a slander. Vatler swallowed his anger and refused to admit it. Natsuki, on the other hand, looked at Vatler in a different light. She was quite familiar with Vatler and knew his personality. Hiding the Black Death Emperor faction on the ship and having them sneak onto Itagami Island was definitely something he would do. Show me proof that I'm hiding the Black Death Emperor faction. Otherwise, my curly beast will not let you off the hook so easily. Vatler said coldly. As for Koju, he had already forgotten about him. His ship was destroyed by someone else. If he did not get an explanation, he would not be able to stay in War Monarch's domain anymore. On the other hand, Dustless remained calm. He treated Vatler's threat like a feather. Chapter 1521. Vatler was about to explode from anger. Every expert had a different side to them, and it was normal to be arrogant, but that didn't mean he could be so condescending. Destroying my ship for no reason. I will not tolerate such provocation. Vatler's body exploded with mana, as if he was about to attack. Idiot, do you have any evidence? If you are making things up, then even I can't protect you. Natsuki raised her voice in a serious tone. You are amazing. At this point, Koju was full of admiration for Dustless. While he was the fourth true ancestor, he was just a figurehead. Vatler might care about him, but deep in his eyes was the same disdain. You want a witness? Are you blind? The witness is right in front of your eyes. Looking around, Dustless noticed that there were panicking servants everywhere. The invited guests were all panicking. Who would have thought that someone would dare to attack Vatler's private cruise ship? This guy was known as the monster closest to a true ancestor. However, the scene before them made them understand that there were still people who dared to kick Vatler's ass. Lord Vatler. Just as Dustless and Vatler were confronting each other, an unusually respectful voice suddenly sounded. The newcomer was about 15 or 16 years old. He was a beautiful young man with a petite and gentle appearance. He had gray hair, emerald eyes, pure white skin, and long eyelashes. He gave off a dreamy feeling, and people couldn't help but want to protect him. Is something the matter? Vatler was furious and looked at everyone with hostility. Yes, yes. The young man was stunned for a few seconds before nodding stiffly. He moved to Vatler's ear and said in a voice only the two of them could hear. The Black Death Emperor faction has left. Very good. Vatler's eyes lit up and he nodded with satisfaction. He then looked at Dustless with a victorious expression and sneered. So what if I hid the Black Death Emperor faction on my ship? They have all left. Do you have any evidence to accuse me? I found the witness. Dustless's sudden words attracted everyone's attention. His eyes lit up as he looked at the handsome young man who had just come to deliver the news. Could it be? The corner of Vatler's mouth twitched. He naturally saw Dustless's malicious gaze. This brat is a member of the Black Death Emperor faction. Dustless said with certainty. It's over. Natsuki and Koju's heart skipped a beat. They both knew this brat. He was Vatler's subordinate, and also a noble from the Battle King domain. His name was Hila Lebedev Valdezrava. Natsuki had seen him before. Akatsuki Koju had introduced himself to Vatler before. Don't worry. Since you've served me for so many days, I'll definitely buy you a large coffin. Natsuki said with an expression of, I'll take care of your funeral. Vatler was enraged. Hearing Dustless slander his subordinate, he went berserk. You dare slander my subordinate? You've got guts. Slander? You can ask him yourself. Wuchen maintained his composure all along. Still not giving up? Vatler raised an eyebrow and coldly shouted. Kira, tell this guy who you work for and shut him up. Yes, Lord Vatler. The handsome young man nodded respectfully. His next words made Vatler fly into a rage. Everyone. To be honest, I'm a remnant of the Black Death Emperor faction. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone was petrified. How is that possible? I've seen him before. This brat is definitely not a remnant of the Black Death Emperor faction. Natsuki muttered to herself in disbelief. Didn't I say it before? Dustless stretched and said without a change in expression. If I say he's from the Black Death Emperor faction, then he's from the Black Death Emperor faction. Slap. Vatler's face darkened as he slapped Kira Lebedev Valdezrava away and angrily shouted. Did your head get caught in a door? Mr. Vatler, this proves that the Black Death Emperor faction is hiding on your ship, and this spy is a loyal subordinate of yours for many years. Dustless's smile had a hint of sarcasm in it. Damn it, I was tricked by this brat. Damn it, how did he do it? He didn't even make a move. Vatler was furious, but he had nowhere to vent his anger. Vatler was especially sullen. He had never felt so depressed before. He was sure that Kira's background was clean. Dustless must have some secret that he didn't know. Crack. Crack. Vatler was like a barrel of gunpowder. At this moment, anyone who provoked him would definitely be killed by the shockwaves of the explosion. This was definitely not a joke. He had never suffered such a huge loss in his life. His subordinate had actually helped the enemy to slap his own face. This was the first time he had suffered such a grievous encounter. Idiot, with my attainments in illusion, it's too easy to control a rookie like him unknowingly. Looking at Vatler's purple face, Dustless felt a burst of pleasure in his heart. Hiding terrorists, I will definitely go to War Monarch's domain for an explanation. Natsuki also took advantage of the situation as she stared at Vatler with an unfriendly gaze. She also felt extremely happy. Vatler's sullen face was too interesting. Now we should go back and capture the terrorists that escaped to Itagami Island. Dustless yawned lazily as he ignored Vatler, who was vomiting blood. So what if I destroyed your ship, called your subordinate a terrorist, and slapped your face? Just like before, he patted his butt and left without any worries. Chapter 1522. Vatler could only watch helplessly. This was Itagami Island, he couldn't stop anyone from going anywhere. Plus, this was Natsuki Nangong's territory. What did you do to that little brat called Hila? Seeing that Dustless didn't intend to speak, Natsuki Nangong had to ask. It's just a trick to deceive people. It's just an ordinary illusion. Wuchen explained simply. Normal. Nangong Nayu did not dare to agree. To be able to control the other party without anyone noticing, other than Dustless, who had broadened her horizons, no one else had been able to do so. Your mission ends here today. As for those terrorists, there is no need to worry. Natsuki suddenly said. Actually, the Black Death Emperor's people have already infiltrated Itagami Island. Our special forces also discovered their tracks and captured a few of them a few days ago. No wonder you're so calm. Dustless understood. As for that god's weapon Nalacuvala, it's impossible for him to revive. It's impossible to decipher its movements. Natsuki said calmly. That's why the old man named Christopher Judson came to visit Itagami Island. Don't forget, we have a special person here who can do it. I remember she's called the Empress of Electronics. Wuchen reminded. Oh. Natsuki paused for a second, and then remembered a super talent, Asakuya Blue Feather. In other words, the Black Death Emperor's people came for Asakuya Blue Feather? Natsuki asked. That's my oversight. But Asakuya Blue Feather is still in Saikai Academy and Asteroidi is with her. She shouldn't be caught so easily. Only the heavens know. Dustless revealed an expression of helplessness. But at this time, Nangong Natanyu suddenly did something that Dustless had never expected. She jumped onto Dustless's back. What the hell is going on? He turned his head and stared at Nangong Nayu speechlessly. Unexpectedly, this arrogant little girl picked up her lace-folding fan and hit Wu Chen. Idiot, what are you doing? Don't you know how to fly? Hurry up and take me back to school. Natsuki saw that Dustless was not moving, and even used her fist to hit Dustless's back a few times. Although her strength was negligible, it was inevitable that Dustless would feel depressed. Don't tell me he's treating me like a humanoid plane, Dustless complained in his heart. This fellow's personality is really terrible. I need to teach her a lesson. Dustless looked at Nangong Natyua with a strange expression. He chose to rush to the Rainbow Sea Academy. At this moment, Kaihai Academy was completely different from the usual quiet school. Da-da-da. Boom boom boom. Da-da-da. A group of armed men and the Special Regions Police Force fought, and the entire Kaihai Academy was in a mess. Although the students were evacuated for the first time, it was inevitable that there would be casualties. There were many dazzling corpses. These bastards. A flash of light landed on the rooftop of the school building. Natsuki angrily looked down at the people fighting below. The entire Kaihai Academy was in a mess. The terrorists didn't care how many casualties they caused, or rather, they hoped that more people would die. This way, they could announce to the world that the Black Death Emperor faction was back. My mission is complete. Goodbye. Glancing uninterestedly at the terrorists fighting below, as well as the Special Regions garrison, Wu Chen intended to retreat. He was really not interested in the fight between ordinary humans. It's still early. Your next mission is to rescue Azurewing. That girl can't be caught, otherwise we will be in big trouble. Natsuki said seriously. Moreover, she's a delicate beauty. Do you plan to let Koju steal your hero's role? Can't you talk less? Dustless's expression was particularly gloomy. Natsuki's words made it sound like he was the reincarnation of a pervert. Your words are unpleasant to hear, but, raising his eyebrows, Dustless said righteously, although I am not interested in shallow onion blue feather, good things can fall on anyone's head, but not Koju. Although I don't know why you hate Koju so much, when we talk about other things, you are surprisingly easy to use. Natsuki smiled with exultation. That's because the protagonist's aura is annoying. Dustless curled his lips. He was able to get to where he was today, because of his own hard work. But why were those protagonists able to kill everything with just a small burst of power? This was too unfair. You could say that he was jealous, but Dustless never liked those with protagonist's aura. However, since you dared to use me, I need to get back at you. He stared at Natsuki. His hawk-like gaze made Natsuki somewhat stunned. But would she, who was proud by nature, lower her head? Of course not. Don't forget that I'm your superior. Be careful that I don't deduct your salary for this month. Dustless did not give Natsuki a chance to speak. He appeared in front of her in an instant and hugged her petite body horizontally. Without hesitation, he lifted her skirt. Pa! A merciless slap landed on Natsuki's butt. A palm print appeared on her butt. You're so young, yet you don't learn good things. Will you deduct my salary in the future? Dustless teased. You bastard, I'll kill you. Natsuki's face flushed red. She struggled with all her might, but was unable to break free. She could only helplessly stare at Dustless. Pa! Dustless did not fall for this and slapped her again. Do you still want to kill me? I must kill you. Slap. Wu Chen gave him another slap and said happily, say it again if you have the guts. Her lips twitched and she swallowed back the words she was about to say. She wanted to cry but no tears came out. She cursed Dustless in her heart for being so shameless. But in the current situation, she could only lower her head and admit defeat. Chapter 1523. Little girl, You still want to fight with me? I will teach you a lesson. Dustless laughed while looking at the bitter face of Natsuki Nangong. This little girl was not only arrogant, she only had the so-called true ancestor in her eyes. In Natsuki Nangong's world, the true ancestor was the strongest. Therefore, she often did not put Dustless in her eyes. It would be good to teach her a lesson and let her know that there was always someone stronger than her. What? You still want to take revenge? Natsuki Nangong's face was red as she stared at Dustless fiercely. Her sharp eyes seemed to be looking for a loophole. Humph, just you wait. I will take back this debt 100 times in the future. Natsuki Nangong crossed her arms. Thinking of Dustless's strength, she could only swallow her anger for the time being. If she were to go for wool and come home shorn, it would not be worth it if Dustless continued to humiliate her. What are you standing there for? Go and find Blue Feather Shallot. Natsuki Nangong pouted and ordered. Don't worry, those terrorists are begging Blue Feather Shallot for a job. They won't hurt her. Dustless said calmly. At the same time, a trace of doubt appeared in his heart. Come to think of it, I haven't seen Shelly and Hanaki yet. With their personalities, they should have already fought with those terrorists. That is indeed strange. Natsuki Nangong's face stiffened. After thinking for a while, she nodded. Under such circumstances, the righteous Shelly should have already erupted like a volcano. Forget it, it should be fine. Dustless, who had no news, thought about it and felt relieved. Those terrorists wanted to fight with the two of them. They were just asking to be humiliated. In a dark space, there was a deathly stillness. Miss Blue Feather, I hope you can be tactful and not force us to kill your friend. Although terrorists give the world the impression that they are cold and heartless, if you can complete the task we arranged and still don't want her to die, I advise you to be honest. Christopher Judd said coldly. The person he was pointing at was Koju's sister, Nagisa. Use your genius brain to revive Nalakuvula as soon as possible. That way, the Black Death Emperor faction will be able to leave Itagami Island. Otherwise, the longer you delay, the more people will die. Christopher Judd said casually, full of disregard for life. He picked up a pistol and fired mercilessly at one of the students. Bang! The student's brain instantly exploded. Vomit, vomit, vomit. Seeing such a bloody scene, Asakash Blue Feather began to vomit. Before coming to Itagami Island, I once investigated your daily life. Are you close friends with this little girl? Pointing at the unconscious Nagisa, Christopher Giadashio sneered. I'll give you an hour. If you can't do it within an hour, they'll all die. The Black Death Emperor faction didn't just kidnap Nagisa, they also kidnapped other students. GMO Shelly was one of them. However, there were too many of them. If she acted by force, she wouldn't be able to kill all of them at once. The innocent students would be the ones to suffer. Therefore, GMO Shelly chose to endure for now. I will do it as soon as possible. Clenching her fist, Asakash Blue Feather had no choice but to compromise. On the other side, Dustless wandered around like a headless fly. He didn't find any traces of the terrorists for a long time. He turned the entire Rainbow Sea Academy upside down, but he didn't find their stronghold. Just when Dustless was having a headache, an unexpected figure entered his sight. It's you. He stopped and looked at the visitor with surprise. This person was Xian Gaiong, one of the 3 saints of the Lion King organization. Dustless had offended him before. Right now, at this sort of time, you wouldn't be here to find trouble, right? Dustless muttered. Of course not. Xian Gaiong shook her head and said, Asakash Blue Feather, GMO Shelly, and Nagisa were all kidnapped by the remnants of the Black Death Emperor faction. They escaped to the port on the west side of Itagami Island. They have a lot of friends waiting there. You have to be careful. Oh, so you are here to deliver information. Dustless was enlightened. He retracted his hostility and asked in confusion. Shouldn't the Lion King organization inform Koju about this? He is the 4th true ancestor, and his sister was kidnapped too. Although he is a true ancestor, the Lion King organization doesn't dare to compliment him in certain aspects. We have already blacklisted him. Xian Guyong's delicate face was filled with disdain. I didn't think that secretly taking pictures would be so useful. Next time we should record it. Dustless laughed awkwardly. Last time, when Koju sucked Yaesmoki's blood, he recorded it with his camera. That was why the two of them became the targets of everyone. Your information is very valuable to me. I will remember this favor. Goodbye. Before he left, he stole a few glances at Xian Guiyong's long and slender legs. They were as white as jade and flawless. Her legs were just as beautiful as Jijua Shelley's legs. And her gentle voice, especially, gave people a different kind of inspiration. The Lion King organization had given up on Xiao Guocheng because they had no other choice. They had hoped that Ji Mushilai would be his wife. And in the future, they would be able to control Xiao Guocheng through Ji Mushilai. No wonder Koju and GMO Shelley didn't have a good relationship. They couldn't let Koju attract Koju. Chapter 1524. Since Akatsuki Koju had made a loss, he had to find a more suitable stock. Naturally, the Lion King organization set its sights on Dustless. He was strong and had good foresight. Most importantly, although he was not a primogenitor, as a human, Dustless might be even more powerful than a primogenitor. As the saying goes, those who are not of our race will always be of a different heart. A primogenitor was a vampire, and a human would always be a human. Most importantly, Dustless was not gay. Although the chances are slim, it's worth a try. After all, time will breed fondness. Koyama consoled herself. Since Sayaka Kawasaka and Jijua Shelley were living under the same roof as Dustless, someone would definitely win the lottery. Asterisk boom boom boom. Asterisk due to the invasion of the Black Death Emperor faction, the entire Itagami Island was in chaos. The sound of gunfire could be heard everywhere. They really know how to pick a place. According to Koyama's description, Dustless found the base of the Black Death Emperor faction without much effort. Almost all of them were armed to the teeth with assault rifles. Dustless even saw helicopters and missiles. Asterisk tat 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 tat. Asterisk the moment Dustless appeared, he attracted the attention of countless assault rifles. 20 to 30 assault rifles were fired at him mercilessly. His body was riddled with holes in an instant. Bastard, what's wrong with this guy? Are you kidding me? How is he still alive? He must be using hacks. There must be a problem. Let's report this to the boss. However, even though Dustless's body was shattered, his footsteps were unstoppable. He looked like he was taking a leisurely stroll in the afternoon. You can't blame me if you want to die, right? Dustless muttered under his breath. His body glowed brightly as he disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already floating in the sky. He was holding a large amount of light in his hand. Yasakani no Magatama. Densely packed golden light bullets fell from the sky and piled up in the sky. The terrorists who had just shot with the intention of murdering Dustless were all shot with holes all over their bodies and bleeding nonstop. What kind of monster is this guy? Christopher Judson, who saw this scene through the monitor, almost spat out a mouthful of blood. His subordinates had all participated in the war, and were all veterans who had experienced hundreds of battles. Now they were all eradicated by Dustless with a single thought. He felt extremely pained. Go and take the hostages out and warn that guy. If he takes one step forward, we'll kill all the hostages. Christopher Judson said coldly. Understood, boss. The group of lackeys took their leave one after another. It's actually this guy? Pale Bluefeather's eyes widened. She looked at the young man on the screen in shock. The person who had barged in alone was Dustless. She had met him once before. On the other side, Dustless's boundless observation haki spread out, taking in all the movements around him. And soon he heard a rush of footsteps. Hurry up and stop, or we'll kill these hostages. Pulling out 7 or 8 Rainbow Sea Academy students, the black-clothed terrorist warned. A group of idiots want to threaten me? Dustless curled his lips in disdain, and a huge flash of light swept over his body. He was about to kill all these people and destroy them together with the hostages when an unexpected figure attracted Dustless's attention, and the raging light of destruction stopped. Looking closely, a silver-haired girl was particularly eye-catching. Her naturally dull face stood out from the crowd, and she instantly attracted Dustless's attention. Her deep crystal eyes were as bright as gems. Is this guy Kanace Natsuan? Lowering his eyebrows, Dustless thought to himself. This slender and elegant girl looked a little weak, and somewhat sacred, and somewhat similar to Kanace Natsuan in his memory. Tsukuyomi. His eyes revealed a scarlet eye sockets, and a ripple surged out. Immediately after, the terrorists who had threatened the hostages all fell to the ground, trembling in fear. Everyone run. Seeing that the terrorists had all inexplicably fainted, the kidnapped students were all extremely agitated. Without stopping to rest, they scattered and fled in all directions. Ouch! A painful cry was heard, and Dustless looked at the source. It was Kanace Natsuan who was squeezed by the fleeing students. You're not afraid at all. Walking to Kanace Natsuan, Dustless looked at her injured knee, which was obviously stained with blood, and asked, Is your name Kanace Natsuan? Does it hurt? Kanace Natsuan didn't speak, only nodded slightly, and it seemed like she couldn't move anymore. After a moment of silence, Dustless suggested, You can't escape like this. Why don't you follow me for the time being? Although it's dangerous, it's better than staying here. Or you'll be caught by the terrorists again sooner or later. Okay, Kanace Natsuan said. Her voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz, but Dustless heard it clearly. He immediately carried the weak Kanace Natsuan in a princess carry. The latter's face flashed with an unnatural blush, and she wanted to break free from Dustless, but thinking of the current situation, she could only helplessly hug Dustless's neck. Bastard, who's going to help me get rid of this eyesore? He's too despicable. What does he think of us, the experienced terrorists? We're not shooting a movie, nor are we acting in a romance drama. Christopher Judson was depressed, F***CK. Our battlefield is not for you to pick up girls, and our soldiers are not for you to be a hero saving the damsel in distress. Chapter 1525. Christopher Judson was shocked and angry. At the same time, he was a little scared. He had sacrificed dozens of lives, but he did not see the benefits in the end. Instead, his men were getting fewer and fewer. Then let's all die together. Christopher Judson had a crazed look on his face as he pointed his gun at Jill Shelley and the others. Wait, boss, look, the prisoner has successfully revived Nave Lavila. Just as Christopher Judson was about to send everyone to their deaths, his men suddenly cheered and laughed. Through the computer screen, they could clearly see strange-looking monsters wandering around. They were like spiders, crawling on the ground with their legs on the ground as they moved towards Dustless. Humph, at least you know what's good for you. If you delay for a few seconds, you will all die. Christopher Judson sneered as he looked at Nalacuvula with satisfaction. However, with a loud bang, the weapon of the gods that he had high hopes for, Nalacuvula, mercilessly slapped him a few times. Boom boom boom. Black smoke suddenly rose from Nalacuvula, followed by a loud explosion. They could even hear the words "Lightspeed kick." What the hell is going on? You better give me an explanation. Don't think that terrorists are uncultured bumpkins. Christopher Judson shouted angrily as he felt that his intelligence was being underestimated. If it was an ancient weapon, why was it so weak? It was the weapon of the gods. You really are an uncultured bumpkin, Azurewing complained in her mind, but on the surface she said calmly, It's not Nalacuvula's fault, but that guy is too strong. Damn it. Christopher Judexia was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. He thought that Azurewing had cut corners, but he didn't expect that Dustless was so strong that he could easily defeat the divine weapon that he had high hopes for. Humph, looks like I have no choice but to use that trump card. That thing is something that even Vatler doesn't know about. It will definitely wipe out Itagami Island and destroy the first primogenitor's War King's domain. The whole world will be at war with it, ha ha ha. Christopher Judson threw his head back and laughed, looking like a madman who worshipped war. Just wait and see. Christopher glared coldly at Dustless in the video. He immediately turned around and left angrily. It seemed that he was going to find Dustless for a final settlement. He glanced at Nalacuvula, which had been turned into scrap metal in shock. It had miraculously recovered and returned to its original state. What should we do? Hanace Cannon's voice was as soft as ever, but this time, There was a trace of nervousness. After all, she and Dustless were still surrounded by terrorists. There's no need to worry. Speaking of which, your adoptive father is called Kensei Kanase, right? Dustless completely ignored the recovered Nalacuvula and reminded him. In this world, there is no one who is absolutely trustworthy, including your parents. That's why you have to be careful in everything you do. Dustless gave a friendly reminder as he sympathized with the little girl's tragic fate. But you're trustworthy. Kanase Cannon had a gentle smile on her face. She was as gentle as an angel, and people couldn't help but fall for her. You're too naive. Seeing this, Dustless shook his head, but he didn't expect this scene to be captured by the others. Who is that guy? He seems very strong. The blonde girl asked. Him. The wise old man in a lab coat pushed up his glasses. His eyes were slightly cold, and his body seemed to be made of ice. He was Kensei Kanase, and also Kanase Cannon's adoptive father. I think his name is Dustless. He's a new subordinate recruited by Natsuki Minamiya. However, his strength is completely above Natsuki Minamiya's. Even the fourth primogenitor's curly beast was instantly killed by him. Kensei Kanase said in a deep voice. At the same time, the sound of the earth shaking suddenly spread. The few of them looked towards the source of the sound and were stunned. Densely packed Nalacuvulas were rushing towards them. The sheer number of Nalacuvulas was beyond human comprehension. Let's retreat for now. Otherwise we might be infiltrated, Kensei Kanase muttered. His brows were furrowed with deep worry and dread. There were too many of them. They would be unlucky if they were surrounded. TSK. Kensei, that Kanase Cannon is your daughter. The blonde girl mocked. Her tone was filled with contempt for life. She was Beatrice Basler, the boss who hired Kensei Kanase. She's also the material for our next plan. Kensei Kanase shook his head. He said calmly, that guy can protect Cannon from harm for now. There's no need for us to cause any more trouble. Also, what's the situation in the kingdom of Aldisha? Don't worry about it. Their princess, Leferia Lyavane, is heading towards Itagami Island. Once she appears in the target's range, I will personally take care of her. Shinra Tensei. A strong repulsive force surged out, and the surrounding Nalacuvulas retreated. Based on the current situation, we will need to use some large-scale spells to defeat them. TSK, we might even sink this island. Dustless's lips curled into a sinister smile. It was as if he was the incarnation of evil. It was as if the previous him was a disguise and this was the real him. Chapter 1526. Cannon also noticed Dustless's strange behavior, but she didn't think much of it. Instead, she felt that Dustless was more reliable than before. You still haven't dealt with it? At this time, a familiar voice entered his eyes. He looked up and saw Natsuki holding a parasol. No wonder you haven't dealt with it yet. You're too busy taking care of women. Natsuki cursed Dustless for being a playboy. His ability to attract women was even more attractive than a true ancestor. If you can't do it, I can do it for you. A frivolous voice suddenly sounded. Dustless couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. Looking over, it was a handsome blonde man exuding a noble aura, Vatler. This guy is really like a ghost that won't leave. Dustless frowned, but he also understood Natsuki's intentions. Seriously, this guy probably feels embarrassed. He's like a little brat. He looked at Natsuki helplessly. This guy liked to be stubborn and cared about his reputation, especially in front of people like Vatler. He would never lower his head. These guys are troublesome. They can recover after being destroyed. It's normal for you to feel troubled, Vatler said. Troublesome? Dustless sneered, his tone full of disdain. You feel troubled because you're useless. Please don't treat others like you. What did you say? The corner of Vatler's mouth twitched. He finally understood why Koju hated this guy. This guy was simply asking for a beating. His face was asking for a beating, and his tone was even more so. Well said. Nangong Nayu smiled sweetly and gave him a thumbs up. Wu-Chen, show me your strength. Open the eyes of someone who only knows how to play with snakes. Stop him from being so full of himself every day. That kind of invincible idiot is really annoying. Even so, Nangong Natsuya's heart was filled with worry. Looking around, there were hundreds and thousands of Nalakuvalas, the weapons of the gods. They were all piled up. Ha ha ha. You came at the right time. Dustless and the other two were startled when they heard the voice of a vile man intoxicated with success. They looked in the direction of the voice at the same time. What came into view was a huge, strangely shaped machine. A large number of Nalakuvalas surrounded it, and not even a fly could get past it. What is that? Vatler asked. You can think of it as the main body that controls these Nalakuvalas. As long as we can defeat it, all our problems will be solved. These machines will also be destroyed, Dustless explained calmly. But with so many of them, it won't be easy to destroy the mother body. Nangong Natsuki frowned. She regretted what she said just now. If she couldn't solve this problem, she would definitely lose face for nothing. Tsk. The one who spoke just now seems to be Christopher Juadius. Does that mean that he is in the Matrix? If that's the case, I'll have an excuse to make a move. How about this? I'll help you get rid of the minions around the mother body. Vatler's suggestion was rather pertinent. I'm sorry, I refuse. However, Wuchen only glanced at him indifferently. His tone was firm and there was no room for negotiation. This idiot. Nangong Natsuki slapped her forehead and gave Dustless a hopeless look. He was such a good fighter. Why did he refuse? You're not willing? Vatler was startled. He didn't expect Dustless to be so decisive. Looking at his frown, he suddenly understood. You're worried that you're not the mother body's opponent? How about this? I'll leave the minions to you, and I'll take care of the mother body. You don't seem to understand what I mean. I'm saying that I can take care of this by myself. I don't need anyone else to interfere. Nangong Natsuki and Vatler were both startled. Their eyes were filled with excitement. Leave that student to me. It'll be inconvenient to carry her in battle. Nangong Natsuki pointed at Cannon, who was still in Dustless's arms. Hearing this, Wuchen nodded and said, There's no need. It's a matter that can be solved in an instant. Bastard, don't ignore my existence. And that bastard, don't think that you can fight against an ancient artifact just because you look bad. I'll make you regret it soon. Christopher Judson's angry roar came from within Nalakuvara's mother's body. He was furious at Dustless and the others. These arrogant bastards were treating him like food that could be distributed at will. Especially this bastard called Dustless. He was hugging a woman and couldn't even free his hands. How dare he say he was going to teach him a lesson? Go. Under Christopher Judson's command, the Nalakuvalas swarmed over. There were definitely no less than 100 of them. I want to see what's so special about you. Vatler stared at Dustless. This bastard had looked down on him time and time again. The first time, he destroyed his ship. Just now he even said that he was useless. He was looking forward to Dustless's performance. Just disappear. There's been enough drama today. Also, I didn't get a raise for working overtime. Dustless grumbled. His eyes expanded to the limit as he roared. God's might. In an instant, a giant black hole with a radius of a few hundred meters appeared in the sky. It emitted a violent gravitational force and swallowed all the minions. Chapter 1527. Nangong Natsuki and Vatler widened their eyes as they stared at the black hole that was getting bigger and bigger. The powerful gravitational force was about to tear them apart. What is this? Vatler's face changed. Even though the gravitational force of Kamui was not aimed at him, the boundless gravitational force was enough to make him tremble. It was as if he could be killed by the black hole at any moment. Who knows? Nangong Natsuki rolled her eyes. She had only known Dustless for a few days. She did not mean to recruit Dustless into the Special Region Garrison Force. Now it seemed like he was gold hidden in sand. However, gold was still gold. Even if it was submerged, it would still shine brightly when it was unearthed. Damn it! What the hell is that? Christopher Juadius, who was inside the mothership, was shocked. Under this super abnormal gravitational force, he flew up uncontrollably. Ka. The mechanical arm could only hold on to the ground. If it was swallowed by the black hole, it would be over. Still want to struggle? Nangong Natsuki frowned. This guy was overestimating himself. Although the power of these ancient weapons was shocking, they were not his own strength. They were just some tools. Buzz buzz buzz. After about 10 seconds, the black hole in the void also disappeared. Everything in the surroundings also calmed down, but the entire land was a mess. The ground was flattened. Now that I have taken care of all your minions, are you still not going to surrender? Dustless flashed and appeared on the head of the insect-shaped machine in the next second. Through the special barrier, he could clearly see Christopher Jedius, who was still in shock. Sneak attack? Bullsh *T. Not only did Christopher Jedius not realize his mistake, he even shouted, "This machine of mine is different from the rest of the garbage. It's light speed kick." A thick flash of light appeared under his feet. It was much stronger than before. Not to mention how powerful the kick was, just the high temperature was enough to melt Nalacuvula. You bastard. Christopher Jedius's face was extremely ferocious as he glared at Dustless. His carefully prepared plan had been ruined by this inexplicable brat, and he even had the urge to swallow him alive. You don't look remorseful at all. His gaze was calm as he looked at Christopher Jetson. Facing that cold gaze, Dustless's face did not change, and was full of calmness. In the end, he was just a defeated opponent. Ow 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 ow, he yelled like a madman, as if he was cheering for himself. Then Christopher Judson swooped down with great pressure. You must be buried with me. Christopher Judson roared as he charged forward. Forget about it. You'll spend the rest of your life in prison. Suddenly, a purple light flashed across the blue sky. Immediately after, a mysterious magic array appeared in the void. Countless chains then shot out from the magic array. Ka. Christopher, who was caught off guard, was completely unaware of what was happening. He was tightly bound by the chains like a dumpling, and could no longer move. Bastard, let go of me! Christopher Judson roared. He was filled with anger and wanted to take revenge on Dustless. You should stop. She saved you. If you continue to provoke that man, perhaps your life will end in the next second. Vatler looked at Christopher Judson pitifully, and shook his head. This idiot really thinks he's invincible. Well done, Dustless. She didn't expect the matter to be so simple and resolute. She nodded with satisfaction, and then looked at the ground that was destroyed by the divine might. She smiled and said, Not bad, not bad. But you even flattened the entire harbor. With such a huge loss, I'm afraid it will cost at least tens of billions to maintain. This shouldn't have anything to do with me. This loss should be borne by you. Dustless said with a fake smile. His meager salary wouldn't be enough for a few hundred years. Right. At this moment, Dustless suddenly thought of something. His eyes lit up as he looked at Vatler. He laughed and said, Duke Vatler, you look very good today. What do you want to say? Vatler frowned. Seeing Dustless's smiling face, he couldn't relax. Instead, he felt his hair stand on end. Hearing this, Wuchen didn't beat around the bush and directly expressed his thoughts. Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. After all, those terrorists came down from your ship. Shouldn't you compensate me with hundreds of billions to make up for my losses? Also, I helped your War King domain capture the terrorists of the Black Death Emperor faction. Shouldn't you reward me? You don't know the rules. PFFF. Vatler couldn't help but spit. Fortunately, Dustless dodged it with a god-level dodge. You want me to compensate you with hundreds of billions? What a joke. Even if the loss this time is at most tens of billions, you want me to compensate you with hundreds of billions? Vatler's face couldn't help but darken. It was the first time he saw such a barbaric and unreasonable person. You only lost tens of billions, but I have to compensate you with hundreds of billions. Why? What he couldn't accept was that Dustless hadn't even gotten back his losses from destroying his ship. Now he had to compensate him with hundreds of billions. Absolutely not. Chapter 1528. There's both a witness and evidence? You still don't want to admit it? Dustless glanced at Vatler, and his tone changed. If you don't pay up, I can kick you off this island. Even if your first true ancestor comes, it won't be of any use. Kick me off the island? Hearing this, Vatler's mouth twitched. The flames that had been suppressed for a long time could no longer be concealed, erupting like a volcano. Boom, boom, boom. The powerful mana caused a small earthquake. It was as if the entire island was shaking. Do you think I'm a useless piece of trash like Christopher Judson? Kill me whenever I want? Do you think you can capture them as you please? Vatler's tone was cold and filled with killing intent. He had been provoked by Dustless time and time again, but he was still able to suppress his anger. He thought he had done a good job. But this guy was born to be punched. He didn't know when to back down. He would only be satisfied if he pissed him off completely. You destroyed my ship, falsely accused my subordinates, and even wanted me to compensate you. You even wanted me to give you my land. Vatler gritted his teeth as he listed Dustless's crimes. More and more killing intent gathered in his chest. Everyone had a limit to their patience. And then, Dustless shrugged lazily as he ignored the discomfort caused by the high mana. In the end, you still want to go back on your words. Go back on my words. That's nonsense. Vatler snorted and said coldly, I have nothing to do with the terrorists. Even if the remnants of the Black Death Emperor faction are hiding on my ship, it doesn't mean I'm hiding them. So you still want to go back on your words? Dustless said uninterestedly. A wicked light flashed in his eyes. I wanted to provoke you on purpose to test how strong you are. Vatler's face was filled with murderous intent, but he was laughing in his heart. Even if the battle causes this island to sink, it has nothing to do with me. He was the one who attacked first. I was just defending myself. However, even after waiting for a long time, Dustless had no intention of making a move. He just watched quietly. Then hand over your subordinates for me to investigate. There are more than 100 terrorists on Itagami Island. Without your subordinates' permission, they wouldn't have been able to sneak in. This time, it was not Suki who spoke. Her tone was as firm as a man's. Hearing this, Vatler's expression changed. Without thinking, he blurted out, That's impossible. Swish. Swish. Dustless's body glowed brightly as he charged towards Vatler. He squinted his eyes and asked, So you refuse to cooperate? I'm just doing my job. Even if the entire island is destroyed, I won't have to pay any compensation. Of course I refuse to cooperate. You want me to hand my subordinates over to you for inspection? What a joke. It's better if you don't tell such boring jokes in the future. Vatler replied matter-of-factly. He was a noble of the Battle Monarch domain. If he handed his subordinates over to someone else for inspection, not only would it be a disgrace to the Battle Monarch domain, it would also be his downfall. If that's the case, I have nothing to say about arresting you. A ghostly voice appeared. Vatler froze and turned around. Before he knew it, Dustless had appeared behind him. How is this guy so fast? Could it be the same type of spatial magic as Natsuki? Vatler turned around and stared at Dustless. His face turned green as he sneered. You want to arrest me? That will depend on your ability. Just don't be afraid of destroying this island. Swish. With that, Vatler launched an attack. A large ball of magic light shot towards Dustless and Natsuki. Snake Charmer, you asked for it. Natsuki naturally wouldn't just sit there and wait for her death. Just as the attack was about to hit her, she disappeared. Swish. A faint purple magic array appeared behind Vatler. Then a large number of chains shot out and pounced on Vatler. In less than a second, Vatler was subdued. Haha. You think you can subdue me with this? Vatler had a look of disdain. He shook his body and the chains disappeared. You. Pointing at Natsuki, Vatler was about to teach her a lesson when a mocking voice came from behind him, filled with endless ridicule. Exposing your back to the enemy is not going to work even if you have 100 heads. The shining golden feet were all aimed at Vatler. This time, Dustless was even more ruthless as he aimed for Vatler's head. This guy was too arrogant. He was the one who shielded the terrorists from getting to Itagami Island. Not only did he not change his ways, he even wanted to destroy the island. Lightspeed kick. The attack landed on Vatler's head. Vatler spat out a mouthful of blood. and was sent flying dozens of meters away. Vatler even left a long and narrow mark on the ground. Chains of discipline. Natsuki saw this rare opportunity and used her specialty again. Countless chains lashed out at Vatler like venomous snakes, destroying him mercilessly. You asked for it. How dare you be so arrogant in my territory? You deserve it. Natsuki's lips curved upwards. Her bell-like laughter was pleasant to the ear. Aren't you afraid that the first primogenitor will take revenge on Itagami Island? Dustless had a strange expression. He wasn't afraid of the first primogenitor, but where did Natsuki's confidence come from? Chapter 1529. Dustless didn't understand Natsuki Nangong's strength. Or rather, Itagami Island's overall strength wasn't bad. However, it was still far from enough to go against a primogenitor. You think I'm afraid? Natsuki Nangong curled her lips in disdain. Then she smiled maliciously. Don't worry. Even if the first primogenitor comes, you'll still be there. I'll just push all the blame to you. When the sky falls, the bigger one will be the first to get hit. This bastard. Hearing this, although Wu Chen was depressed and conflicted, he didn't feel annoyed. Natsuki's words had another meaning. She was implying that Dustless was bullying Vatler. And she was also implying that Bright Court Island was willing to work with him. The meaning of this couldn't be clearer. Perhaps in the future, the Akatsuki Empire would be replaced by the Empire of Nothingness. You two bastards are looking down on me. Vatler was said to be the monster closest to a primogenitor. He wasn't that weak. It was impossible to kill him with one kick. Even though the kick wasn't light, Vatler knew Dustless's basic strength. Instead of backing down, his battle instincts were aroused. Ha 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 ha. Vatler's mouth was wide open. His face was twisted like a demon's. A horrifying laugh came from his throat. His eyes were bulging as if they would fall out at any moment. Boom boom boom. More and more mana seeped out of Vatler's body. Affected by Vatler's mana, Itagami Island trembled slightly at first. But now that Vatler was angered by Dustless, he unleashed his full power. Itagami Island shook violently as if it was experiencing an earthquake. The ground cracked open for no apparent reason, revealing shocking fissures. Idiot! Why are you still standing there? Get rid of him! Natsuki Nangong kicked Dustless's butt. However, Dustless was still in his elemental state. Her kick missed. Don't be hasty. His gaze remained calm. The luck of this island seemed to be very good. It wouldn't collapse so quickly. Ayo 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 ayo. A hysterical hiss resounded through the void. Dustless was slightly stunned. Following his line of sight, a large purple snake suddenly appeared. Its entire body emitted a purple light, and its blood-red eyes stared at Dustless. Its snake tongue hissed as it flicked in and out, as if it was looking for the most suitable opportunity. Yubala! Vatler roared. His curly beast roared and charged towards Dustless with its jaws wide open. It seems pretty good. Dustless nodded slightly when he saw this. Immediately, a thick flash of light shot out from the tip of his finger. Dow Breaker 88, Flying Dragon Strikes Thief. Swish. Swish. The flash appeared quickly and disappeared quickly as well. The last time it appeared was when it blasted onto the snake's body. Boom boom boom. A loud explosion shook the clouds. The entire Itagami Island could feel the shockwave from the explosion. The shockwave swept across the sky like a tornado. All the buildings within 100 meters of the explosion collapsed. Mr. Vatler, the mighty snake has become a roasted snake this time. You are too kind. If you want to treat me to a meal, just say so. Vatler's curly beast, Yubala, was charred and emitting a strange smell. It could only struggle to survive and wail in pain. Honored guests, if you want to treat us to a meal, just say the word. Why use your own curly beast as a cooking material? How extravagant! Natsuki took the opportunity to retaliate. You, Vatler glared at Nangong Nayu and Dustless. Why were these two asking for a beating? Also, the way they speak and their unique sarcasm made Vatler think that they are either lovers or biological siblings. Boom boom boom. Vatler's attack failed, but he won't admit defeat so easily. As someone who is close to a true ancestor, he has a few tricks up his sleeve. As his mana surged, a thick sea snake appeared again. No wonder Natsuki Nangong called him Snake Charmer. All curly beasts are related to snakes. Wu Chen muttered to himself. Judging from its aura, this curly beast seemed to be stronger than before. Sakara, a sea serpent that was even larger than the curly beast from before, descended once again. Its entire body was purple, and it was flicking its forked tongue out instinctively. Crush them! Vatler roared. His curly beast, Sakara, opened its mouth full of fangs. A surge of high-pressure water was brewing. An ominous glint flashed in his eyes. Vatler waved his hand, and a thick water cannon shot out. Boom boom boom. Streams of water that were like lasers gushed toward them, and the majestic scale threatened to devour the earth. You overestimate yourself. Seeing this, Dustless didn't move. He didn't even blink as he stared at the incoming wave. The space in front of him started to distort. Divine might. Following Dustless's voice falling, the space shattered with a bang, and a huge hole appeared. The attacking giant water pillar was sucked into a different space before attacking Dustless. This move again? Vatler's mouth twitched. His expression became worse and worse. He waved his hand and was about to control his curly beast to attack again when Dustless' voice sounded. Vatler, have you ever been bitten by your own curly beast? Dustless's eyes stared at the huge eyes of the curly beast. His 3 Tomo Sharingan spun, and a majestic psychic power rushed towards Vatler's curly beast, Sakara. Idiot, why would my curly beast bite me? Vatler said with disdain. Did this guy have enough brains? What he didn't know was that Vatler's curly beast, Sakara's eyes had turned into the same Sharingan as Dustless. Chapter 1530. The thick sea serpent's eyes were filled with greed. His master, Vatler, was a piece of fat meat that could fill his stomach. How did he do it? Natsuki was puzzled as she realized how little she knew about Dustless. Is it because of those eyes? Her beautiful eyes stared at Dustless's eyes as she guessed. Looking at the same eyes as Vatler's, her mind started to work. Exactly the same 3 Tomo Sharingan. This guy knows Jujutsu? Natsuki was full of anticipation as she waited for Dustless's performance. Tear him apart, Sakara. Vatler waved his right hand and ordered his beast to attack Dustless. But what surprised Vatler was that even after waiting for a long time, the beast didn't obey his order as if it wasn't related to him. What's going on? Vatler turned his head and looked at Sagara in disbelief. He quickly noticed that Sagara's eyes had turned into the same Sharingan as Dustless. What kind of eyes are those? Vatler couldn't figure it out. He subconsciously looked at Dustless. When he saw that Dustless had the same eyes, his heart skipped a beat. It just so happened that right at this moment, Dustless's infuriating voice sounded out. Sakara, tear Vatler to shreds. Dustless ordered sternly. Tear me apart? Hearing this, Vatler laughed and said mockingly, Brother, are you joking? How can my beast tear you apart? Before Vatler could finish his sentence, the black python swallowed him whole. Poochie. Blood splattered all over the ground. Sagara was clearly holding a piece of minced meat in his mouth. Then he choked and swallowed the minced meat into his lungs to digest. Ha ha ha. You run very fast. Dustless looked at Vatler with surprise and disbelief as he teased. Your Excellency's escape skills are truly top-notch. If it were me, I would have been swallowed. What did you do to my curly beast? Vatler asked with his eyes wide open. His curly beast had attacked him for no reason. Someone must have done it, and the only person Vatler could think of was Dustless. Natsuki Nangong did not have such an evil ability. It's not a big problem. I just used my illusion to control that beast. Dustless said half-heartedly. Illusion? Vatler was stunned. He thought for a long time but still could not figure it out. He could only say gloomily. In short, you used a despicable trick to control my curly beast? Fight me head-on if you have the guts. Ao. Vatler's heroic spirit soared to the sky, but Dustless was too lazy to even look at him. He directly controlled the curly beast to bite Vatler. Boom boom boom. Vatler was miserable. He was being attacked by his own curly beast. He jumped around like a monkey, temporarily dodging Sagara's fatal attack. Poochie! In a moment of carelessness, Vatler's shoulder was bitten again. Combined with the previous bites, Vatler was in a miserable state. He was covered in blood, and his body was on the verge of collapse. Seems like it's going to end. It's really disappointing. Wu Chun sighed softly with a bored expression on his face. Bastard. Vatler wanted to cry but had no tears. He glared at Dustless with eyes full of hatred. Finally, he clenched his teeth and retracted all his magic. The curly beast chasing him also disappeared. You're giving up on using your curly beast? Your chances of winning are even slimmer. What threat do vampires have without their curly beast? Dustless asked lazily. Or are you planning to give up? In your dreams? Vatler groaned as a cruel smile appeared on his face. Boundless magic erupted again. Ayo. Woo. A deafening roar reverberated through the clear sky. Two gigantic creatures appeared. Their general appearance was almost identical. They were both super monsters in the shape of snakes. I didn't want to use that at first, but it looks like I have no choice now. Nantua. Two ferocious-looking snakes appeared. They opened their bloody mouths and bared their fangs at Dustless. Their low voices seemed to be saying, "Just wait for your death." I didn't want to use this, but I have no choice now. You're unexpectedly difficult to deal with. If I don't use my best trick, I might be the one eliminated. Vatler laughed savagely. He clenched his hands and the two curly beasts began to merge. Boom boom boom. A powerful aura swept through the enemies, and a powerful shockwave exploded out, forcing everyone back. Even Nangong Natyue could not block it, and was blown away. Curly beasts of this level are comparable to Primogenitor's curly beast, right? Dustless was astonished. Originally, there were two frightening arrows, but after Vatler's fusion, they instantly transformed into a dragon's form. Their imposing manner was not inferior to the lion's gold, the true ancestor's curly beast. But I don't have the energy to play anymore, so let's stop here. Glancing coldly at Vatler, Dustless released all the spiritual pressure in his body. Suddenly, the sky became incomparably hot and oppressive. Dowbreakers 96, one blade cremation. Just as he finished speaking, a flaming blade rose from the ground. The fusion curly beast, which was as powerful as Koju's lion's gold, was reduced to nothing the moment it came into contact with the blade of flame. Chapter 1531. The giant blade-shaped flame pulled at everything around it. Everything that came into contact with it disintegrated and disappeared like the sea breeze. Is this guy doing this on purpose to get revenge? Natsuki was furious. If Dustless was responsible for the damage after the disaster, he might have stayed behind to think about it. However, as soon as this wild horse was released, he immediately became unruly. The opponent is too strong. If I don't use my full strength, I will be killed. Dustless laughed. Humph, the word on purpose is written all over your face. Natsuki pouted and stomped her feet helplessly. She had made an agreement with Dustless. No matter how much damage was done after capturing Vatler, it had nothing to do with Dustless. Controlling one's strength is very difficult. Dustless shrugged and acted as if he had done his best. All he did was turn a few kilometers of land into a barren wasteland. Damn it, even the true ancestor's curly beast can't do such a large area of damage, right? Vatler was shocked and frightened. He was also shocked by Dustless's strength, especially when he heard that Dustless had done his best to suppress his strength. His heart broke into pieces. This was too much of a blow. I didn't misjudge him. Although I don't know what's going on with this guy, his future is much brighter than Koju's, and he's a human. Xianggyang, who was watching the battle from afar, couldn't hide her shock. If she hadn't seen Dustless destroy everything with her own eyes, she would have thought that this was a natural disaster caused by a meteorite. This guy is so perverted. How am I going to get revenge? Some were happy while others were sad. Some were happy while others were disappointed. Xiao Nagisa was one of those who was complaining. At this moment, her consciousness was completely taken over by the fourth true ancestor, Agrora. I definitely can't swallow this humiliation. I have to wash away this humiliation. This guy doesn't seem like the kind of person to play to the gallery. He shouldn't be bragging when he said that he has the ability to revive me. How can I make him revive me? Agrora was deep in thought. After a long while he seemed to have made some kind of decision. His firm expression was replaced by a firm one. He touched his buttocks that had been attacked by Dustless a few days ago. Strangely, it started to hurt again. This made Agrora feel embarrassed and angry at the same time. The fourth true ancestor had been spanked. She wanted to hang herself. But Dustless was so strong that she couldn't even muster the courage to resist. He was clearly a mere human, but his combat power was no weaker than a true ancestor's. This was simply cheating. Now you'll be obedient, Mr. Vatler. Staring at Vatler with a teasing look, Dustless had a smug smile on his face. Vampires had an unlimited lifespan, and their recovery speed was also top-notch. But after being heavily injured by the aftermath of the cremation, even though he managed to dodge the fatal blow, he was still heavily injured. It was an extremely fatal injury. He didn't even have the strength to walk. If you want to kill me, then do it. Vatler said coldly. You want me to kill you? Dustless blinked and shook his head decisively. That's what an idiot would do. If I catch you and put you on the newspaper, you'll be famous. And if I kill you, who's going to pay for it? Famous? Vatler almost vomited blood. If his sorry state was published on the newspaper, he would be famous. But he would definitely be condemned by the public and be cursed for eternity. At the same time, the Special Regions police arrived. They tied Vatler up and left. Natsuki also left. Only Kanae's Cannon and Dustless were left at the scene. Sit down. Dustless pointed at a suitable spot on the floor. He frowned and gently touched her knee that was covered in blood. It hurts. Kanae's Cannon's expression changed. The pain made her sweat. Her face was pale. And of course there were 2 faint red spots. She was quite cute. No one would be able to accept someone touching their thigh. Dustless, you really are a pervert. You won't even let an injured girl go. Living under the same roof as you. There's a risk of pregnancy. A furious voice came from behind. Dustless didn't even turn his head. He didn't need to think to know who it was. It was Hanasaka Sayaka. Senpai, you disappoint me. You're as perverted as that Akatsuki Koju. Jijua and Shelley followed. They were helping the kidnapped students. When they came back, they were already done. They happened to see Dustless molesting Kanae's Cannon. After all, they were classmates and had a good relationship. How dare you molest her when I'm here? Do you believe that I won't? Hanasaka Sayaka swooped down with her weapon raised. When she was about to kill Dustless, she heard Kanae's Cannon's grateful voice. Thank you, it doesn't hurt anymore. Jijua and Hanasaka Sayaka were stunned. They stared at Dustless in astonishment. Dustless's hand was slowly recovering. You're welcome. I know the most basic medical ninjutsu. Dustless smiled. It was a piece of cake for him. At the same time, something big happened in another direction. Who are you? The girl with the curse-type spear asked in an unfriendly manner. There were corpses everywhere, and they were all wearing the same clothes. They seemed to be his bodyguards. Your arrogant tone is really annoying. You're about to become a captive. You're no longer a princess, La Freya Liawain. However, the princess's situation wasn't good. She was surrounded by people, and one of them was Kanae's Cannon's adoptive father, Kanae's Kensei. Chapter 1532. La Freya stared at the approaching Kensei, with an awkward expression. Her expression was getting heavier and heavier, and she had already guessed Kensei's intention. It's been a few years since we last met. You've grown up, Your Highness. On the surface, Kensei looked like he had just met an old friend, but his tone was as cold as ice. Are you planning to use my royal status? Things like angel imitation require royal blood as a medium. You've fallen, Kensei. La Freya stared at Kensei Kanae with a piercing gaze that was extremely oppressive. Of course, this was ignoring her miserable appearance. If combined with her bleak appearance, she gave off the feeling of a dying monarch. Fallen? That's not right. Kensei shook his head. His calm expression was replaced by passion. Turning you into angels and returning to God's side. What kind of great feat is this? Using such a dirty word like fallen to describe my plan. It's blasphemy. You're crazy. La Fria spat. At the same time, she blinked her beautiful eyes. Realizing the problem, she asked, You? Could it be that you found other mediums with royal blood? Could it be? Canon Kanace. That's right. Kensei nodded. Then he raised his eyebrows and said in a deep voice, But she ran into some trouble. My plan couldn't keep up with the changes. She was temporarily protected by someone called Dustless, so I didn't have a chance to act. Dustless? Hearing this, La Fria had a strange expression. She lowered her head and thought for a moment. She didn't have this name in her mind, but she still felt grateful. If it wasn't for Dustless's protection, Canon Kanace would have been dismembered on the operating table. Kensei, you're indeed a lunatic. Taking a deep breath, La Fria finally stood up and walked to the side of the spaceship. She looked at the blue sky and the endless sea. Her heart was very calm. Shut up, I don't have time to chat with you. Capture her low. The blonde woman in leather ordered. She was the boss who hired Kensei Kanace, Beatrice Basler. She was said to be the descendant of the third ancestor. Hearing Beatrice Basler's order, her subordinates immediately nodded and approached La Fria. You want to capture me alive? An undisguised sneer appeared on her face, and under the astonished gazes of several people, she actually jumped into the ocean without hesitation. Damn it. Kensei Kanace and Beatrice Basler both cursed. They didn't expect Lafulia to be so decisive and choose to commit suicide. She might not be dead yet. Get ready to search the sea. I think she'll end up on an island near Itagami Island. Kensei Yace's eyes lit up as he analyzed. Inside the apartment, the sound of running water could be heard. Dustless was lazily soaking in the water tank. He was tired from the battle with Vatler, so he planned to go to bed after washing up. Shuelai, where's that little girl called Canon? I remember asking you to invite her to your house. Suddenly, he remembered that there were only two people when he came back. One was Sayaka Huangban, and the other was Jijua Shelley. As for Kanace Canon, she was nowhere to be seen. Invitation? No way. Dustless, who was soaking in the bathtub, could only helplessly shake his head. Miss Huangban, you really can't do anything right. Dustless sighed in disappointment. That little girl is very important. Shuelai, when we go back to school, you must keep an eye on her. Senpai, why? Shuelai whispered outside the bathroom. Dustless was older than her, so she always called him senpai. Anyway, she's very important. I can't tell you why, but you must keep an eye on her. After all, you're classmates, so it's easy to keep an eye on her. I'm a man, so if I follow her, I'll be treated as a pervert. Dustless said gloomily. Hearing this, Sayaka Huangban, who was watching TV, curled her lips and said in a decisive tone, You're a man. Anyone who stays with you for a long time will get pregnant. You bastard. Dustless's mouth twitched. At the same time, he shouted angrily. The three of us have been living together for a while, right? Are you pregnant? Please don't spread rumors. Also, don't use the word pregnant in the future. People might misunderstand. During this period of time, Wuchen had heard the word pregnant so many times that his ears had grown calluses. However, Huangban Shayahua was still very happy and kept shouting about it every day. Senpai, don't worry. I'll take good care of Canon. Shuelai promised. That's good. Hearing that, Wu Chen's hanging heart finally settled down. After wiping the water stains on his body, he changed into new pajamas. At the same time, he threw all the clothes into the washing machine. His eyes glanced at something that he shouldn't have seen, and embarrassment flashed across his face. They're really careless. Dustless bitterly smiled. Sayaka Huangban is really arrogant. She's wearing black. Knock knock knock. Just as he walked out of the bathroom and was about to go to bed, someone knocked on the door. Seriously, it's already midnight. Who's so bored? Is it not Suki Nangong? Helplessly, he went to open the door. Sayaka Huangban was a lazy person. She never opened the door for guests. Jijua and Shuelai also went to bed early. Sayaka Huangban was the only one eating snacks and watching TV. Creak. The door was gently pushed open. An unexpected figure came into sight. Dustless was stunned. Chapter 1533. She has a head of curly blonde hair, a delicate face, even facial features. The places that are supposed to be protruding are not flat, and the places that are supposed to be raised are not sunken. You are Miss Blue Feather? After a moment of silence, Dustless embarrassedly scratched his head and showed an apologetic expression. My apologies, please come in. That there is no need. I am the one who should apologize for the sudden visit. Thank you for saving me during the day. If not, I might have been killed by those terrorists. Blue Feather bowed to express her gratitude. Miss Lan Yu, you're too polite. It's just a small matter. Besides, it's also my responsibility. Wu Chen shook his head. This was his task. After all, he was now a member of the Special Regions Police Force. Even so, but at this point Blue Feather's tone became sluggish. Her face was filled with disappointment. Which girl doesn't yearn for love? They all hope that the person who saves them is their prince on a white horse. But her Akatsuki Koju was trained by Dustless to be gay. Dustless couldn't help but feel happy. Thinking about this, he felt a sense of schadenfreude. No matter what, I sincerely thank you. Blue Feather apologized again, and turned around to leave. Miss Blue Feather, it is already so late. How about I send you off? Dustless hurried to catch up with her. He worriedly said, It is late at night. There are a lot of criminals on Itagami Island. Miss Blue Feather faintly smiled. She reluctantly had a good impression of Dustless. But she still shook her head and refused. No need. I plan to stay at a friend's house today. Coincidentally, they also live in this apartment. Blue Feather pointed at a door not far away. Dustless's face immediately fell. There was clearly a Akatsuki character hanging there. Miss Blue Feather wants to stay at Akatsuki Koju's house? Dustless's face flashed with hesitation. He calmly instigated. Forgive me for being blunt, but Akatsuki Koju's reputation isn't that good. The news of him being a pervert and gay has spread like wildfire. I suggest that Miss Blue Feather doesn't stay at his house. I know. Blue Feather nodded dejectedly. How could gays have a good reputation? However, she still smiled and said, However, I still have to thank you for your concern. The two of us are close friends. It's fine. You know nothing. Dustless complained in his heart. Then he said loudly, How about this? You stay at my place, and I'll stay at Koju's place. Such a good suggestion. Koju will definitely. Good my ass. Perhaps it was because he was too focused, but Xiao Guqing was already standing next to Dustless. When he heard that this guy was going to live in his house, Xiao Guqing couldn't remain calm. One had to understand that letting a hungry wolf into the house might not be a big deal. But Koju still had a beautiful little sister. You want to stay in my house? Maybe in your next life. Completely ignoring Dustless's existence, Koju and Azurewing left side by side. Only Dustless was left staring blankly at the two's fading figures. Ka. Crackling sounds came from his fingers. Dustless's eyes flashed with fire. His originally tired sleepiness disappeared, leaving only a belly full of fire. Damn kid, you think I can't do anything to you? With a sneer, Dustless immediately had a suitable plan in his heart. He had too many means to teach Koju a lesson. You forced me to do this. Sneaking to Koju's door, Dustless spread out his observation hockey, and found that Koju was doing homework, and his sister Nagisa was sleeping, and Azurewing seemed to be taking off her clothes to take a bath. Hey, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Dustless had a strange smile on his face, and immediately found that Koju's door was locked. Kamui. Kacha. The space was torn by Dustless, and then he walked in. Strange, what was that sound just now? Could it be that someone came in? I remember the door was locked. Koju muttered in confusion. His companion had already come over. Boom. While Koju wasn't paying attention, he knocked him out with a karate chop. Ooh. Now I have to deal with Azurewing. Dustless smiled evilly as he looked at the girl who was taking a bath. Boom. Without even bothering to hide, Dustless directly invaded the bathroom. His scarlet three-tomo Sharingan rotated as he stared at Asakonian Blue Feathers with his head held high. Who is it? Azurewing was shocked and subconsciously looked over, and what she saw was Dustless. No, it was Koju. The one who came in was indeed Dustless, but he used an illusion to turn the Dustless that Azurewing saw into Koju. Koju, get out of here. Azurewing was ashamed and angry, and quickly used a bath towel to cover her private parts. Get out. Dustless sneered. How can I let such a good opportunity go? This time I must do you. You know what kind of person I am, and you still dare to come to my house. You have guts. Although the one who spoke was Dustless, because of the Jinjutsu, Azurewing had an illusion that the Dustless in front of her was Koju. I treated you as a friend, and this is how you treat me. Asshole Blue Feather was furious. She picked up the shower gel and threw it at Koju. Child's play. Dustless leaned to the side and grabbed the towel, and then pounced on Azurewing and grabbed her hands, and the bath towel fell. You bastard, Koju, are you crazy? Seeing Koju staring blankly at her, Blue Feather was furious. She hurled a torrent of abuse at him, but it was of no use. She couldn't stop anything. Chapter 1534. Dustless's gaze was extremely aggressive as he scanned Azurewing from side to side. He would be an idiot if he didn't take advantage of the situation. Not to mention the existence of Koju as a scapegoat. Her white skin was as smooth as a baby's. Wu Chen's eyes could see everything at a glance. Looking left and right, he was very happy. Only Blue Feather's flame kept rising and her face turned red. Get out of my way. Azurewing didn't know where she got the strength from, but she pushed away the dazed Dustless and threw a change of clothes at him. Shoo shoo shoo. All kinds of clothes were thrown over, regardless of whether they should be thrown or not. All of them were thrown towards Wu Chen. Oh no, towards Koju. Azurewing was currently trapped by Dustless's illusion. In her eyes, Dustless was Koju. Die, you bastard. She picked up the shower head and threw it at Dustless. She didn't show any mercy and it hit Dustless's head. Bang. This hit wasn't light at all and Koju immediately fainted. Shoo shoo shoo. Azurewing took advantage of this short window of opportunity and turned into a gust of wind to escape. She immediately put on her pajamas and left Koju's house. She didn't expect him to be so shameless. Ouch. Dustless rubbed his forehead and was quite depressed. This was the life of a professional actor. Sometimes, he had to put himself in danger to succeed. Hurry up and drag that brat Koju here. Dustless chuckled and dragged Koju into the bathroom. He placed him where he fainted and then lazily left Koju's house. None of this has anything to do with me. With the mentality of being a bystander, Dustless left easily. Today the common people are so happy. In the corridor, Wu Chen was jumping up and down. He was in a good mood. However, when he just stepped into the door of his house, he heard the sound of sobbing. Who is so capable to make a tigress like Huangban Sha and Yahua cry? Dustless shivered, but at the same time, he was also filled with curiosity. He stuck his head into Jijua Shelley's room, and was stunned by what he saw. Woo woo woo. Gucheng, that bastard. To think that I trusted him so much. The sobbing voice filled with resentment towards Koju was Shallow Blue Feathers. He gave off the impression that he couldn't wait to send Koju to hell. This is Shaggy Azurewing? Dustless paused. He thought that Azurewing would be so worried that she would run home, but who would have thought that Jijua Shelley and Hoban Sayaka would denounce Koju's crime? That's good too. Dustless shrugged, as if it had nothing to do with him. Although he was the one who violated Akatsuki Koju, because it was an illusion, Akatsuki Koju only saw a beast with a human face. Go to sleep. Dustless leisurely laid on the soft bed. Just as he was about to rest, the sound of the door being knocked was heard. Dustless, if you're not dead, get up. Huangban Sha yelled with all her might, and the sound of the door creaking could be heard. Might as well just tear down the door in the future. It's unnecessary anyway. Dustless crawled out of the warm bed. If he didn't get up now, the door would be forcefully torn down by Huangban Sha. What's the matter? After opening the door, Wu Chen saw Sayaka Huangban, Asakani Blue Feather, and Jizhua Shelley. His face was filled with confusion, and his eyelids were half closed, as if he had just been woken up from a sweet dream. Aren't you in the Special Regions Security Force? Now you want to catch a pervert? That's your fault, right? Huangban Sayaka said angrily. Koju, that scum violated Asakani Azure Wing. Hearing that, Dustless was petrified on the spot. He looked at the trio speechlessly and thought, I only took a few glances, it's not as exaggerated as you say. Anyway, let's go ask that kid first. Dustless was naturally happy to see someone looking for trouble with Akatsuki Koju, especially Azure Wing. Damn it, why am I still in the bathroom when I fainted? Akatsuki Koju opened his eyes and looked at all this with a confused expression. At the same time, he found himself tied up. His limbs were tightly bound, and there were 4 figures standing in front of him. Akatsuki Koju, I'm arresting you for attempted rape. There are witnesses and evidence. Plead guilty. Dustless stared at Akatsuki Koju with a smile. His words made him vomit blood. Who attempted rape? I'm warning you, don't slander me. Akatsuki Koju's face turned green. Every time he met Dustless, he would encounter this kind of inexplicable misfortune. I didn't do anything. However, Dustless ignored his rebuttal. The Special Regions Security Force was already waiting outside the door. They directly took Akatsuki Koju away. No matter how much he yelled, it was useless. Akatsuki Koju would do such a thing? Natsuki Nangong had a strange expression. She looked at Dustless suspiciously. She didn't believe that Akatsuki Koju would do such an outrageous thing. If you don't believe me, you can ask Miss Azurewing. Dustless shrugged and pointed at Azurewing. His expression immediately became serious. Forget it, I don't have time to listen to your explanation. I'll look for trouble with Akatsuki Koju later. Natsuki Nangong clearly had other important matters to attend to. She didn't bother with Akatsuki Koju and took out a few photos for Dustless. She solemnly said, this kind of thing is very dangerous. If you meet her, try to catch her. This is... Dustless stared for a while and frowned. Isn't this Kensei's angel replica? Could it be that he's already plotting against Qinggong? Looking at the time, it should have been created recently. Chapter 1535. The monster in the photo was not wearing any clothes, only a simple yellow bandage wrapped around her body. She wore a cold mask and her eyes were as sharp as knives. Just looking at her in the photo was enough to make one feel a sense of oppression, let alone seeing this monster in person. This monster also had a pair of transparent wings. But this should have nothing to do with me. Dustless shook his head and muttered, if I remember correctly, tomorrow is a holiday. I refuse to carry out any mission, no matter what it is. You. Natsuki's delicate face twitched. She was depressed. Every time she spoke to Dustless, she felt extremely pained. Civil servants do not have holidays or weekends. Nonsense. Dustless curled his lips and exposed Natsuki. In short, I refuse to carry out any mission. I need to adjust my mood during the weekend. You are still depressed? Hearing this, Natsuyu's expression changed. She couldn't help but sympathize with Koju. This guy was bullied by Dustless every day, and every few days, he would be sent to the Special Regions garrison to drink tea. Natsuyu even suspected that Koju might be suffering from depression. And now, the main culprit was complaining that he was depressed. Natsuki finally understood what it meant to have a face thicker than a city wall. How about this? Natsuki's eyes turned and she suddenly chuckled. How about we go on a date and watch fireworks tomorrow? Date. Dustless did not show much interest. He knew what Natsuki was planning. She would probably use the date as an excuse to bring him to the scene of the accident. You want to go on a date? Sure, but I have a condition. Dustless looked at Natsuki with a smile. Inside he was laughing. You can be shameless, but why can't I? I asked you to go on a date with me? You dare to talk about conditions with me? Natsuki stared at Dustless in shock. She felt that her brain was not enough to process this. This was the first time she had seen such a shameless man. A woman taking the initiative to go on a date with you should be happy. But Wu Chen's expression almost made Nangong Nayu go berserk. Tell me about it first. Sighing, Natsuki decided to give in. It's actually very simple. I originally thought that Asterudi was very good and planned to find her as a servant, but you snatched her away. So my request is very casual. You just have to serve me tea for a day. Then, I will reluctantly agree to go on a date with you. Dustless still spoke with a tone of I'm losing out. You should just die. The corner of Nangong Natyu's mouth twitched, and her face was as black as coal. A purple magic array appeared behind her, and countless chains shot out. She was about to tie Dustless up and give him a good beating. It won't be too late to make a move after I say something. Dustless quietly stared at Natsuki as he said, Natsuki-chan, the date you mentioned is to make me work for you, right? I can handle this matter and give you a satisfactory answer. However, there is no such thing as a free lunch. Is it wrong for me to ask for some compensation? Moreover, my strength is no weaker than a true ancestor. If you become a servant for the first true ancestor, will he help you investigate the mission? Nangong Nayu was speechless. Her delicate face flashed with embarrassment. She had planned to trick Wu Chun like this. Who would have thought that this brat would be more cunning than she imagined? He didn't fall into her trap. I promise you. Natsuki gritted her teeth and finally agreed to Dustless's condition. At least you know what's good for you. Dustless smiled proudly. After talking for so long, his throat was dry, so he said, Go and get me a cup of water. Remember, it has to be 70% hot and 30% cold. Natsuki was furious. It's just a cup of hot water. That's more than I asked for. You brat. Dustless immediately turned into a black shadow and rushed over. Before she could turn around, he picked up Natsuki, lifted her skirt, and mercilessly slapped her butt. Remember, for the next 24 hours, you have to call me master. You dare to hit me. Natsuki was embarrassed and angry. If she remembered correctly, this was the second time she had been spanked by Dustless. If others knew, how was she going to survive in the future? She could not help but think of silencing him. Dustless saw the savagery in Natsuki's eyes and explained in a soft voice, If you have some kind of unrealistic plan, I advise you to stop. You should know the difference between us. Hateful pervert. Hearing this, Nangong Natsuki's anger deflated. Her beautiful eyes dimmed a bit. She wanted nothing more than to hang Dustless up and beat him up to vent her anger, but she could not beat him. After all, even monsters like Koju and Vatler had been beaten up by Dustless. In the end, in this world, the strong were respected. In fact, for someone as powerful as Dustless, as long as they paid a small price, it was rare to find someone like him. This was already giving Nangong Nayu face. Moreover, no one was an idiot. Was it possible to get something for nothing? It was like the relationship between an employer and an employee. If you did not pay someone, why would they work for you? In reality, it was the same. Remember, later you will have to wash my feet, scrub my back, cut my nails, and sleep with me. Forget about that. Natsuki was furious after hearing Dustless's ridiculous conditions. However, due to Dustless's strength, she could only hold her nose and endure it for now. If she were to break the contract now, it would be the same as Dustless spanking her, but without paying any price. She could not pursue the matter as she was the one who broke the contract first. That would be a huge loss. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.